Welcome in, everybody. Welcome into an evening edition of Salty Sleuth Investigates. Sometimes we're daytime, sometimes we're night. Welcome in, everybody. Um, Tricia, welcome in. Pammy, welcome. You like the music, Pammy? I think most people agree with you. They seem to like it. I think it's a catchy little tune. We had to have something to go with our evenings besides that morning coffee. That way the new people aren't confused by us. But, we all knew what it was, but they're like, late, it's nighttime, lady. So anyway, we got our evening music and we got our morning coffee and crime music. But I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. I like it. I'm all about some decent tunes. All right, guys. Welcome on in True Grit Crime. Welcome in True Crime Fan Girl channel. Welcome in. I used to be True what did I used to be? True Crime Time, and then I quickly realized um, there was a guy with the same name, but he was rarely active. And then he was for a minute. People couldn't find me because they would pull up him. Anyway, I had to switch my name. So there you go. Little backstory. You were True Crime Butterfly. Rachel, welcome in. Um, so guys, yeah, we knew that there, was going to be a lawsuit filed against WSU. We now have the full complaint. Actually, earlier today, Sarah sent me a link to an article about it. It was over at the Idaho Statement, of course. I do have that article, but then I was like, 126-page complaint. Where was it filed? Hold on. So we got the complaint. I don't want to read the whole complaint. Um, yeah. So before we get started, though, guys, did y'all hear the craziest update out of the Tepe murders stuff? Because we went over all that, right? And the bizarre way the 911 callers handled the 911 the callers, right? The ones that called in the wellness check and all that. And how immediately people over, I'm gonna say the Facebook people, because that's where I saw it first, were attacking the callers. They're fishy because they called 911. I thought we were supposed to. We're all mad at Dylan because she didn't, but now we're mad at these people because they did. Y'all make up your minds, right? Okay, so anyway, remember how the cop was like, "What do you mean they see a body?" I went to the front door and I went to the back door. They hear kids crying. I didn't hear any kids. Maybe because you were at the wrong freaking house the whole time. Y'all, the police chief has now come out and clarified that the police did go to the wrong house initially when those calls came in for a wellness check. And they didn't hear anything, didn't see anything, nobody answered the door, and they got in the car and they left. And then when the calls continued to come in, they're like, "Listen, people, stop bothering us. We've already been out there. We've done our part." How rude. I think they owe them an apology now. Do y'all agree with that? Or am I making too much of it? Because I think that is rude and insensitive. And I think that people who are going to man the phones at the 911 desk probably need to go take some empathy courses on the internet. Or, oh, wait. Maybe they did, and that's the problem. Shit, never mind. Can I see their training records? Like any good attorney would ask for. I need to see your training manual and your 911 people. And do they attend online empathy classes? Oh, well. Yeah, it's not good, Gritty. Not good at all, especially when we heard the calls, right? And the arrogance that the cop had about already being at that location, and that the 911 operator had about, "We've already been out there. Are you out there now? Were you there when we first got out there?" Apparently there wasn't anybody there when you first got there because you were at the wrong damn house. So how is that the people's fault that called it in? They had absolute every right to call it back in, because fortunately they did. And they didn't rely on the cops to say, "All's good. Y'all go on about your day. They'll show up tonight." What about that? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we see them. See, that's why they don't care for us. They'll come out and say, "Well, we got our eyes on the social media." Don't listen to the social media, those liars. And all we did was ask some questions. Stop gaslighting us, right? Hey, real happy, welcome in. I saw you earlier in somebody's chat. Where was I? I was bouncing around while I was waiting on my grocery store order. I had to stock up on some, the things. And I was waiting and I was bouncing around and I saw you. Oh, I know where it was. Oh, that was earlier. Was that in Gigi's? Oh, goodness. That lady's been putting me to. Well, actually, here's what happened. Usually in the winter, I love to go within and I do a lot of energy work in the winter and the meditation and all the things come back that I've let go all summer because I'm flighty in the summer. I just want to go sit in the sun and listen to the birds and do all the flighty things, oh, shiny objects. In the winter, I'm like, nah, let's go within, own our shit. What can we do better? Be all the things. Well, I felt off energy wise lately, but Gigi suddenly has been putting out these daytime videos or a live stream you can go join, and she's playing the good music, the megahertz, all the things that you need to relax your body. And about that time that she does it, is right when I'm like, I need to take a break. It's like 30 minutes downtime, some music on. Yeah, I think it was happy when I saw you in there today, listening to that music. I literally just laid the phone down and I just laid there and listened to it for about a half hour. And then I got up and carried on with my day. It was nice. All right, we're going to get into reading this document. It's a long one. They had a press release we'll look at first from the law firm. I think it was the law firm. Let me see. Now, I am really aware that there's some documentation out there now of what time Xana Kernodle ordered her DoorDash order. I've seen the time that the order was placed. I don't know what to make of it yet, considering it was delivered damn near 2 hours after the order was placed. I'm still processing that. It, it, I don't know what to say about it yet. So until I get there, because right now it's in the back burner, we'll get there. But for now, we're going to look at this. And it was not in the docket stuff. I think it was a separate FOIA request somebody did on that information. So I got to see more. Uh-oh. Okay, let me get the press release pulled up first, and we'll take a look at that. And all of the families are participating in this suit. And for once, Idaho statesman said they reached out to Steve Gonzalez for a statement. He had no comment. I was like, oh man, damn. Hey, C.A. Hawkeye, is that you? Is that our Hawkeye or a different? Are you a new Hawkeye? Okay, let me get this a little bigger where my blind self can see it. Oh, excuse me. My mute button went crazy. I thought I was muted, guys. I would have moved my mic. My sinuses are going nuts. It is hot in Florida. I'm going to complain because it's January and I expected it to be. Wow, my mic just muted itself, so I don't even know what's going on. It was supposed to be on mute, then it unmuted. I don't know. It's crazy. But I know it's hot in Florida in January, and I don't like it. It's got my sinuses doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay, I'm supposed to get some rain soon. They said something about cooler weather. I'm like, good Lord, bring it. Okay. I'm gonna eat those words, aren't I? Those who know me are going salty. Shh. You're gonna be bitching soon because it's too cold. All right. Now I'll stay in the house where the heater's at. Okay. So this is from no, this firm is Wagstaff and Cartmel. I believe they're out of Kansas. But they have two attorneys in Washington where the lawsuit's been filed, and they're the ones handling the case. And all of the families have joined in. Okay, January 7, 2026. So this was yesterday they released this. Following the sentencing of Brian Koberger in July, newly released law enforcement records and investigative materials have revealed deeply troubling information concerning Washington State University's knowledge of and lack of response to Koberger's repeated misconduct in months leading up to the murders of Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xander Kernodle, and Madison Mogen. These materials show that Washington State University received a substantial number of alarming complaints about Koberger while he was a graduate student and a university employee. Multiple individuals reported behavior that was described as stalking, threatening, predatory, and deeply concerning. Women feared for their safety around him, required routine escorts to their vehicles when he was present, and developed informal warning systems to protect one another when interactions with Koberger were unavoidable. And people are concerned about a DoorDash delivery time or order time discrepancy. Okay. Despite the volume, seriousness, and consistency of these reports, and despite existing police policies and procedures designed to identify and address threats to campus safety, a lawsuit, Gonzalez ETAL versus WSU, filed today in Washington State Superior Court, aims to prove that the university failed to take meaningful or timely action. The lawsuit seeks damages from Washington State University for violations. The federal law prohibits sexual harassment and stalking in public universities and for its negligence and failure to protect the community at large. Attorneys for the victims' families say that despite the plethora of information about Koberger, including numerous reports that he was stalking students and other women, he remained employed by Washington State University. Housed in university provided accommodations and continued to have access to students and university resources until well after the murders occurred. According to the attorneys, or the family's attorneys rather, I'm sorry, the information now coming to light paints a disturbing picture of institutional inaction in the face of repeated and dire warnings. These failures were not the result of a lack of authority or available safeguards, but rather a breakdown of accountability and responsibility at critical moments. The victims' families have came together with a shared purpose to seek transparency, accountability, and meaningful reform. This effort is not about vengeance or speculation. This is about ensuring that institutions entrusted with the safety of young people take threats seriously and act decisively when warning signs are present. The law firms of Wagstaff and Cartmel LLP and PFAU Cochran, well, all these people represent the victims' families who will have no further comment at this time. Wow. Pretty strong and bold. And I agree with their statements. Oh, Pammy coming in hot. Thank you with what is that called? A super sticker? I'm like, thank you for your $4.99. I appreciate that very much. Um, so that's the press release, guys. And I wish they'd have thrown in there my little favorite part that annoys the shit out of me. What about that one time y'all saw that one car? Like, I'm never going to let that go. But we'll get into the document and see what they specifically are citing, because boy, oh boy, I think they may have a good suit on their hands based on what we've seen, right? Even the chief coming out, the WSU chief coming out and making some statements in early interviews, you know, and they've admitted they had warnings. And then that one professor, yeah, I could have predicted he was going to do something someday, right? Like, whoa, y'all are saying all that publicly now? Okay. All right. And even if, I know that okay, in reality, probably nothing would have stopped Koberger, but if the threats had been taken seriously from the other students and women at the school, um, instead of just swept away. You know what I mean? They were already. What can they come back and say? Well, we were in the process of dealing with him. We had had a couple of meetings. We had a get better plan, right? And we were firing him. See here, look, uh, timing. What we need more timing information here. Who you not fighting today, Butterfly? What are we talking about? Y'all got me I'm confused. Oh, did somebody shush me? Or y'all thought somebody shushed me? What happened? Okay, I don't know. I'll let y'all work it out, whatever it is. Okay. If it needs my attention, I'm so sure somebody will let me know. Okay, let me get the document pulled up now. We're still waiting on Idaho to get it together over there and put those documents back into the docket that they forgot to redact. I- Okay, documents up. Yeah, I tried to scroll up. I don't know how far up to go, Butterfly. Well, y'all have to sit there in silence while I scroll because I can't talk to y'all and try to read at the same time as I distract myself. Then I don't read the comments correctly. Like when I thought you said Stearns when you said Steins in chat yesterday. It was at the very end. I was like, wait. I totally read that wrong. Y'all, I do multitask, but goodness. Okay, let's get into this document. Let me get the screen up. They need to move that share camera button because it trips me up. It's in my way. If we don't share the camera, get out of here with that shit. Nobody wants to see all that. I can't unsee it. What did I not? What y'all? Okay, stop. Now I gotta scroll back. What am I not unseeing? Oh, I said it about myself. I say, okay, well, I might easily confuse people, and I talk to myself. If I told myself something, I tell myself stuff all the time. So I guess y'all know what you're talking about. I'm just the one weird. Okay, all of the families, Sandy, are involved. So let's get into it. Um, okay, you guys can see that on the screen well enough. Okay, so this was filed in Skagit County, Washington, on behalf of Steve Gonzalez as personal representative of the estate of Kaylee Jade Gonzalez, Karen Laramie as the personal representative of the estate of Madison Mogan, Jeffrey Kernodle as the personal representative of the estate of Xana Alexia Kernodle, and Stacy Chapin as personal representative of the estate of Ethan J. Chapin. So I'm actually glad to see that they're all in it together because they absolutely should be at this. You know what I mean? People have tried, certain people have tried to like separate, pit them against one another. Look how they're handling and look how they're all that weirdness. Leave them alone. They're grieving families. And now they've all come together on this because I think they've probably all seen that. Well, we know they've seen the same things that we've seen. And I'm sure they've had the same thoughts we've had and I've had, or they wouldn't be filing this suit. Yeah, okay. So I'm sorry, I'm just looking at your chats. Yeah, we're going to read it. It gotta change. Lord. Welcome in. There's always room for change, isn't there? All right, let's get going. Plaintiffs bring causes of action against defendant Washington State University and allege the following. This is the introduction. Let me get a sip of this coffee. This case arises out of the violent assault and murder of 4 University of Idaho students by a Washington State University employee with a known history of threatening, stalking, and predatory behavior. WSU brought Brian Koberger to Pullman, Washington in the Pacific Northwest to serve as a teaching assistant in the criminal justice criminology department, while also worked on while he also worked to obtain a PhD with a study focused on sexually motivated burglars and serial killers. Do we have I need a list of all his courses. The names of the courses. Study focused on sexually motivated burglars and serial killers. Koberger was heavily we've seen well it's a given because he's that student, but what his focus on, right? Prison reform. There's different areas you can focus in on. So these were his apparently. They paid him a salary, provided free on campus housing, medical benefits, and free tuition, all conditioned on his behavior and subject to being revoked. Pullman, Washington is only a few miles from Moscow, Idaho, home to the University of Idaho, and the combined area is referred to as the Pullman Moscow community. Almost immediately upon his arrival to the Pullman Moscow community, Koberger developed a reputation for discriminatory, harassing, and stalking behavior, instilling substantial fear among young women, students, and fellow WSU employees, necessitating regular security escorts for multiple females. Despite receiving at least 13 formal reports of Koberger's inappropriate, predatory, and menacing behavior, WSU failed to respond in any meaningful way and allowed Koberger's escalating behavior to continue unchecked. 13 formal reports is a lot considering the guy didn't start class till August and the crimes were committed in November. That's not a long time. And boom, almost immediately you're having these issues, right? On November 13, 2022, a foreseeable and in fact predictable tragedy occurred when Koberger entered the bedrooms of 4 undergraduate students and violently stabbed them to death. These deaths should not and would not have occurred if WSU had acted appropriately. And every time anymore when I talk about that, and they talk about specifically 4 violently stabbed to death, you know what pops into my brain, what image I see? That white car passing 1112 every single time. Because the minute Linda Lane got leaked, all I could see was a light colored sedan circling its prey. I didn't know who the hell was driving it or what kind of car that was for sure. That sticks out, and I guess it always forever will. After Koberger pled guilty, oh wait, okay. These deaths should not and would not have occurred if WSU had acted appropriately. After Koberger pled guilty in July of 2025 to 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary, various law enforcement agencies began releasing files from their investigations. Those files, together with information in the public domain, paint a deeply disturbing picture of the breathtaking level of organizational paralysis and inaction by WSU that enabled Koberger over a period of months to stalk his victims and plan and commit these heinous murders. And you know what? I talked about WSU a lot, and so did the interview room. That was literally the only place I saw talking about it into that depth. And I saw a lot of he didn't do it stuff still happening, and I don't care about all that. But there was not a lot of focus on the WSU fault, right? It was like, no, we're not going to, that doesn't even matter at this point. Yeah, it does. It matters. And you know why it matters the most? Because one of the victims in Moscow, Idaho, had a baby sister attending Washington State University right alongside Brian Koberger, and he fucking knew it. You don't think he was watching that girl and daydreaming at the same time? We'll just let him go. It's okay. Maybe one day we'll get a grip on him. He could be really good at his job one day, though. We might need that criminal mind in our corner. Put a young woman's life at risk, in my opinion. Many of them, but okay. Lord help us. Those files, together with the information in the public domain, paint a deeply disturbing picture of a breathtaking level of organizational and paralysis of inaction by WSU. He stalked the victims and he planned to commit these heinous murders. Before WSU brought Koberger to Pullman, Moscow community, he had a history of heroin addiction, had been arrested for theft, and had made numerous posts over a period of years on public online forums commenting about his inability to feel emotion and crazy thoughts. Now, drug addiction aside, a lot of folks overcome that, can go on with their lives, no whatever. It's does any of that warrant not hiring a guy, right? The crazy thought posts. I mean, he also thought he was a sack of meat with no emotions, could look at his parents and feel nothing. He said all that too. He had been removed from a vocational program in high school because of problems with women. That's absolutely true. We've known about it for 3 years. And later, local business owners had become so alarmed at his behavior toward young women that staff kept electronic notes about him to warn female staff when he arrived. And that was also documented from back. He also had pursued a graduate degree. Where's Dolphin? What was it called? The Brian Tally? What was the Brian Tally up to today? He also had pursued a graduate degree in criminology and had demonstrated a particular fascination with serial killers. Almost immediately upon Koberger's arrival to Pullman, Moscow community, he began demonstrating antisocial, disturbing, and menacing behaviors. Now, being fascinated with the serial killers alone and a criminology student's not too far out of the realm, I would suppose. But you start having these other behaviors to go with it, you're acting like the people you're researching, right? Antisocial, disturbing, and menacing behavior. In August of 2022, early in the semester, a fellow graduate student began leaving her office door open because she believed this guy was going to do something inappropriate with a student, and said that Koberger struck her as a stalker or sexual assaulter type. They've had to have talked to this girl and gotten a deposition. Ooh, you can't just say that in a document. They've talked to her and they've got her statements. Huh. Based on how Koberger talked to and treated women, another fellow grad student described him as a possible future rapist. Well, that R word. Sorry, YouTube. And Koberger's supervising instructor was aware that several female graduate students had reported that they were very uncomfortable with interactions they had with him. Hmm. Female graduate students complained that he made them feel unsafe. He was noted to be obsessed with studying sexually motivated burglars and serial killers. Lord, hey, Semi Sharp, welcome in. What are y'all talking about? Sorry, guys, I was just reading chat for a moment. Okay, let's get back to this. On multiple occasions, And with multiple WSU female staff members and fellow students, Koberger would regularly stand close to their desk, loom over them, and would block their exits from on campus offices for long periods of time. You stand there and try to block me at that door. Can you imagine, though, a young woman in college and this, y'all, we know he's a tall, big guy, but some women are more assertive, get the hell out of my way, or they're just more intimidated by that big presence. How dare he? I probably would have been tempted to kick him square off in the crotch. Who you think you are blocking my door? My daddy said don't put up with that mess. But man, that could be very, very intimidating. And that was his whole purpose, right? To see if he could intimidate, or is she going to tell me to get the fuck out of her way? He don't like them strong, assertive women. Pammy, are you sure? Pammy says, we're listening, I swear. That's cool. I just, long as they're, I'm not used to where we usually have a chill chat, y'all are communicating. I'm just making sure everybody's good though, right? I glance down and see one comment. I'm like, oh, I hope everything's okay. I don't know what they're talking about, but I'm assuming y'all are all good. Okay. We don't want no weird ass trolls coming in here talking weird shit on purpose, because we're talking about Brian Koberger. It just happens out of the blue sometimes. So I have to stop and make sure because they think they're smarter than I am. Sorry, it is what it is. But y'all carry on. Y'all have fun. It is coffee and crime conversation. All right. I'm going to keep reading this. It was a long document that I was going to read anyway. So I'm like, do I read it by myself and want to fall asleep? Or just do I go read it live with my peeps? So I have to stay awake. So, y'all, we're doing each other favors here. All right, y'all hang out. All right. So he would loom over their desk and block them from the exits from the doors. One female graduate student reported that Koberger would trap her in her office and try to talk to her about the Ted Bundy murders. I'd have talked to him to feel him out. I'd have been like, this dude's giving me some weird vibes, and I'm about to study the studier. You want to talk about Bundy? Let's grab some coffee. But it probably gave that creepy guy way. The people are like, no, dude, I don't want to discuss him with you. I'm a criminology student too, and I get it, but no, I'm good. Don't need a study partner today. You're giving off Bundy vibes. That was the problem. These girls are like, dude, you are Bundy. Koberger thought you're trying to become, well, you're part of you needed to become Bundy. Because, Bundy had the way with women that Koberger just didn't have. It wasn't to mimic what Bundy did. Fuck, there's a dozen serial killers to mimic. But he needed what Bundy had. What was that one thing Bundy had? Charm and charisma. Yeah. Well, duh. Danny Rawling liked to go in with K-bars in houses that backed up to the woods. College girls and all. Koberger's just like, oh man, all this information. I like that. I like that. I like that. Hybrid killer. Here we come. Catherine Ramsland. Butterfly, if you didn't notice from that damn thing you and I was watching the other night separately, independently, she was at her house, I was at mine, and we were both watching the same thing. Like, girl, here's number 2, here's part 1, 2, and 3, whatever. And so we're watching it, but it was Ramsland's some BTK stuff on A&E we were watching. Yeah. She's coming. She's coming. And I'm here for it. She'd be a fool if she didn't do it. That's what she lives for, man. The Ramsland Koberger study is underway. It's been underway since the day he got arrested. Koberger followed several female students and staff to the cars after hours, which we'd seen that in some of the reports. Multiple female students and staff members were so uncomfortable with his behavior that security escorts were arranged for them after 5 p.m. Now I wonder, do we have any security guards that can come in and say, yes, I walked her to her car every time she called me, and I knew which guy she didn't like. because you know, kind of your job. You need an escort for your safety, or do you mind who I ask who you're afraid of? I am like the cop here. Yeah, it's that guy I work with, Coburger, the one that drives that white Elantra. Y'all keep an eye on it one of these days. Xana did say the Elantra was key. They just missed the key, baby. Ah, damn it. The Elantra was key the whole time. They just missed the fucking key. Do y'all know how long it took for that to make sense? Sorry, I just got to take a moment for that one. And I know y'all have no clue what I'm talking about, but I do. Lord, help us all. One of these days, we will not have our children being in danger when they're at college by deranged fellow students or goofy people who don't know to call 911. Koberger's behavior that the security escorts were arranged. Okay. Escort that in some instances were provided by professors and in other instances by the WSU. So we got professors and the WSU walking women to their cars. Butterfly, she says, after seeing the BTK documentary, now I'm wondering what Koberger was dreaming about under them stars on the back deck with Mama, where he learned his love for stargazing. Yeah. Oh, you know, girl. Where's all his sketches? Oh, yeah, he had forensic data wiping tools. So this lawsuit probably has a professor that works there and the police department. You know they're getting subpoenas, y'all. Oh boy. Certain of these staff members told others that Codeberger had been stalking them. Every one of them are going to be questioned in this for this lawsuit. Some graduates do, because you got to bring some evidence with you, right? You can't just walk in there and say, this is what we think. You got to have those statements to back it up. Some graduate students reported that they kept their on campus doors shut in an effort to keep Coburger out, while others left their doors open as a place of refuge for others if they felt threatened by Coburger. What? I'm going to leave my door open, Butterfly, in case the guy across the hall bothers you. Or if you're in class and you need to bolt real quick, you can run on in. Rach, tell her it's clear. What the fuck's happening? Wow. Okay. We got statements from the girls stating that's what they were doing. In one instance, early in the semester, Coburger was verbally attacked. Coburger so verbally attacked a female student in the classroom that she fled in tears, leaving all her belongings behind. Coburger was described as very angry, as if he had built up a fury of rage. Okay, if that happened in the classroom, we had heard about that in a report. If that happened, there's the professor to witness it and all the other students in the classroom as well. I need statements from every single one of them. And who's the one that stood up and told this jackass to sit all the way down? Anybody? The professor? Security? A male student that said, "What the hell you think you're doing talking to her like that?" Because my brother would have just seen black. But man down. We're from the South, baby. You don't get in a woman's face like that. Mm-mm-mm. One sophomore student reported that Coburger had followed her and told her bosses at WSU about the incident. In response, they told her she should not be alone with Coburger, suggested that campus security should escort her out, and commented that she was not the first to report such problems. What? So why were they giving him chances, right? Why were they willing to hold I get holding the meeting and like, dude, look, you gotta slow your roll here. You're a teacher assistant, not just a student. You cannot be acting like this. And plus your record shows you got a record here with this. Well, history. So what were they afraid of by letting the guy go? Just drop him from the program, take away his funding, and get. Is it so complicated and red tapish that he could have sued them if they didn't have legal just cause to get rid of him without trying all the avenues first? Huh, better protocol needs to be in place if that's the damn case. What is their excuse? I'm gonna love to see their reply to this in the docket, right? So they commented she was not the first to report such problems with him. On other occasions, this sophomore supervisor would take her home so that she did not have to walk by herself or take public transportation, and she became concerned about all of the precautions that needed to be taken because of Koberger's behavior. So, was it on these girls to protect themselves without filing a formal complaint? Would they have been given a formal complaint based on creepy guys lurking? One on on more than one occasion, WSU employees would stay in a room where Koberger was engaging with one of their colleagues out of concern that the colleague should not be left alone with him. This is a little much. For real. On another occasion, a WSU employee told her colleague to email her with the subject heading 911 if she needed help because of Koberger. On yet another occasion, a WSU undergraduate fled into a bathroom to hide from Koberger because she was so uncomfortable with his scary behaviors. Damn. Goodness gracious. They got a lot of statements here. As early as September. Now, remember, he gets there in July. The end of July, he arrives. So now we're in September. WSU professor, and remember, he bought that K bar back in March before he ever got there in July. He brought it all with him. Drove his little Honda Elantra. All right, so in September, the WSU professors were discussing the need to do an intervention. Oh God, with these interventions that don't seem to work. Can we move past interventions now? I don't even know what that word means anymore. What does it mean? A talking to. Is that what an intervention is these days? A talking to. So they had an intervention, or they needed to have an intervention. So they're discussing the need back in September because of his treatment of female students. Now, in high school, he was kicked out of that program, the Be a Future Cop program, because of his behavior toward a female student, a high school girl. Taken out of that program and put over into the HVAC program like daddy. By September or October of 2022, a WSU professor believed that Koberger was stalking people. Careful with that word under Idaho law. Oh, and Lauren's law. Shit. We cannot even legally say Koberger stalked the victims in Idaho, but that lady over there, and her friend have tried to define this to us for fucking months now. So they believed it, though, these professors, in their minds, he was stalking people. Following them around is what I feel like stalking is. You're following somebody around. You're watching them. One student learned that Koberger had photos of her and other female classmates on his cell phone. Remember when Dateline said that browser showed hundreds of college students? Why so many, yet none of the victims? Why all those other ones? You just like to look at pretty girls? Or did you scope out all their houses to find out which one was easiest to get in and out of? Was that the deciding factor? I've always wondered, and you can't help but wonder with all these pictures. Koberger's victims were encouraged to report his behaviors, and a number of them did. The WSU Office of Compliance and Civil Rights, known as the CCR, had at least 13 formal complaints related to Koberger. Yet the individual in charge of acting on those complaints later reported that she had neither met or even spoken with Koberger. So the lady getting the 13 reports never called him into her office and said, "We need to have a chat. Hey, Bubba, fire off an email there, Mr. Koberger, TA. Need to have a chat. Urgent meeting." Hmm. One student, you might have got a vibe if you got in person, if you're a vibey kind of person yourself. But some people got such low energy they cannot read the energy of others, right? It is what it is. And that's, never mind. I was going to get into the percentage of people that could, but never mind. One student complained that she was unsatisfied with how prior reports about Koberger had been handled. She did not believe that WSU would adequately protect her from retaliation. But she continued to report her experiences to the program chair and other faculty, stating that Koberger's actions made her feel safe. She continued to report, so more than once, and those reports went to the program chair and other faculty members, and that she was reporting that he made her feel unsafe. Wow. She probably got lucky and lived in one of the apartments that was everybody was going to know if somebody was coming and going, cameras every fucking where. Another graduate student made complaints about Koberger and was directed to copy them to another department at WSU because she was reluctant to do so because she had bad experiences with that in the past. Oh. One female graduate student reported that she wondered why people in power in the WSU criminal justice system did not meaningfully address Koberger's behavior. You would have to wonder why. During one of several faculty meetings where Koberger, I wonder if we could get transcripts of the meetings, if that's allowed, or if there's some kind of, protective rule they have that we can't get that. During one of the several faculty meetings where Koberger was discussed extensively, one faculty member remarked, "Mark my words, I work with predators. If we give him a PhD, that's the guy in that many years. He is a professor. We will hear is harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students." Now, let that sink in. It says if that's okay, and that is allegedly said during one of the faculty meetings. So that would be on record. "Mark my words, I work with predators. If we give him a PhD, that's the guy in that many years. When he is a professor, we will hear he is harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students." This same WSU professor believed that Koberger was already stalking people. "Miss Ma'am, you know predators because you work with them. Red flag right here." Wow, that's huge and liable. Damn. They probably assumed who was being a Karen or a Debbie. The 13 different reports. There's more than one woman complaining here. Is that what you're talking about, Hawkeye? I don't want to get that wrong. CA Hawkeye. If I'm understanding you right, are you meaning they probably assumed she was being a Karen or a Debbie Remember, he was well thought of in his own circles. What circles did he have that thought well of him? Yeah, there's a lot of complaints in this document here, and in actual documents from the police department we've read where more than one woman complained in WSU. We're going to have these little meetings and such. Here we are at a meeting on the record stating they work with these predators. They believe he's going to do all that, and they already think he's stalking. Koberger's supervising instructor, however, was concerned that removing him from employment at WSU would open the university up to civil lawsuit. Koberger's supervising instructor, however, was concerned that removing him from employment at WSU would open the university up to a civil lawsuit from Koberger, and there it is. Thereby evaluating the financial interest of the university above the safety and security of students, staff, and members of the Pullman Moscow community. So, harassing his students, arguing with professors, wasn't a grounds to officially be able to remove him without fear of a lawsuit. Find it, right? Find it. So we got two major universities, or not major, but the two big universities in the area, just 10, 12 miles apart here, both concerned with an image and a future, both concerned with the end result, that almighty dollar, right? The root of all evil, the dollar. Everybody got to look out for number one. Everybody got their issues with University of Idaho and the money train and the books and the stuff. WSU's concerned if they let this guy go because he's making these women very probably ready to check out of this school and move on to another one at this point, since they're not going to do anything. The WSU Police Department is intended to be a critically important bulwark when it comes to protecting students and the community from sexual harassment, stalking, and dangerous predators. However, prior to Koberger being hired by WSU and arriving in the Pullman Moscow community, the WSU Police Department had a long, troubling, and sordid history of tolerating and, in fact, fostering inappropriate sexual behavior in its own ranks and discouraging complete and accurate reporting of such conduct within its own ranks. Oh. I mean, uh, I understand, firing or letting go of your TA is a legal matter attached to it, but when you're having formal complaints being filed against the person and you're having these meetings, WSU fired him. There's documentation out there that right at the time he was heading out to Pennsylvania, they were getting ready to fire this guy. But I think they knew already I think two and two was put together at that point. It was catch up time, and it didn't quite work out in their benefit. So whatever. I know what they knew, what they had in their hands. They also were responsible for finding the white Elantra and then decided it didn't matter because it didn't match the year what they was looking for in Moscow. The chief said so himself. We didn't even give it a second thought. No tip called in. But you read the PCA, it's going to tell you different. It's going to tell you that tip was called in. They had a tip. They got WSUs and found this car in the parking lot. 2015, bushy eyebrows on the ID. I can find the shade in this case because I know where it's at and where it's not. So fucked up by these people over here. They can pretend and sugarcoat it all they want, but they put so many people at risk, especially Xana's sister. He followed her around for fun, probably. However, but until all the way until he left to go back to Pennsylvania. However, prior to Koberger being hired by WSU and arriving in Pullman, Moscow, the WSU Police Department had a long, troubling, and okay. So in 2007, the WSU Chief of Police was demoted after an internal investigation. They found it all too. Yes. Well, of course, they're attorneys. I'm just an armchair detective, a sleuth, or whatever it's called. Wow. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. Let me get back. Oh, wait. Sorry, I had a message and I had to check it so I can make sure everything was good. It's my sister. Okay. All right, thanks. All right, let me get back to this. Pull this up. All right. Oh, hello, Sirius. Welcome in. Came to give a thumbs up and say hello. Well, we appreciate thumbs up and all the watches, that people want to come and give us. Huh. We might need some Raid spray. Okay. So we are getting back into the document. So in 2007, the WSU chief of police was demoted after an internal investigation found had viewed inappropriate emails on his university computer, forwarded those to the WSU police, and invited them to view them. Ooh. Wait a second. The chief was demoted after the investigation said he viewed inappropriate emails on the university computer, and then he forwarded those to the police, WSU police, invited them to view too. Wow. Pervs are everywhere. In 2011, WSU was fined over $80,000 by federal officials because of multiple assaults that were not properly reported. WSU did not dispute the findings of the federal investigation. Are they going to bring up the one about the one that's currently in play right now? The young man? Huh. In 2022, WSU undertook an investigation of improper SA activities by the WSU police force, or it just says sexual activities, by the WSU police force involving allegations that an officer had sex with a victim in the presidential suite of the Martin Stadium at the WSU Observatory while on duty. And the WSU department leadership did not properly report the incidents. The investigation ultimately found that the police department leadership exhibited gross misconduct, incompetence, and neglect of duty in response to claims of sexual misconduct. Mm? In August of 2022, the WSU police chief, assistant chief, and the captain all resigned prior to facing discipline for their actions. In response, WSU President Kirk Schultz issued a public statement indicating that WSU will not tolerate this kind of behavior nor the negligence of departmental command staff. A subsequent investigation into the offending officer during the fall semester of 2022 found that he engaged in predatory grooming behavior while in a supervisory role and had a history of sexual misconduct, and that WSU Command fostered an environment that discouraged reporting of sexual misconduct. None of that's a good look, is it? Um, It was against the above described backdrop of WSU administrative inaction and police department dysfunction that Koberger arrived in the Pullman, Moscow community, immediately began engaging in overt harassing, stalking, and predatory behaviors, including repeatedly stalking over a period of months for the 4 victims that he ultimately murdered on November 13th, 2022. Subsequent forensic examination of Koberger's electronic devices revealed that he had performed many searches regarding home invasions, co-ed killings, and serial killers. Give me those records. Damn it, Steve. I celebrate, lady. Give them all to Olivia. Koberger's search history has revealed internet searches about psychopaths, paranoia, and porn involving non consensual acts. Koberger's search history also included research on a serial killer named Danny Rawling, who murdered 5 college students in Gainesville, Florida, by entering a college apartment through a sliding glass door, masked and dressed in black, and stabbed his victims to death using a K-bar knife, all features of Koberger's later murders. I feel a little vindicated. They brought it up. Downloaded his ass twice in one night. Subsequent law enforcement investigation also revealed that Koberger had driven around the home of the murder victims in the middle of the night over a dozen times as early as August of 2022. Despite having a formal threat assessment team, a now common practice at universities to proactively identify, assess, and manage individuals who may pose a risk of violence, WSU wholly failed to follow that process with Koberger and instead allowed his dangerous behaviors to escalate while it simultaneously continued to support him financially and provided him with access. Oops. How far? With access to university resources. Why is it jumping so bad? Hold on. Resources and students, and keep him housed rent-free in the Pullman, Moscow community. As a result of WSU's actions and failure, 4 young college students were brutally murdered. Parties, Steve Gonzalez is a citizen of the state of Idaho and is the surviving father of Kaylee Gonzalez. Steve Gonzalez brings a survival claim and wrongful death claim as personal representative of the estate of Kaylee Jade Gonzalez. Karen Laramie is a citizen of the state of Idaho and is the surviving mother of Madison Mogan. Karen Laramie brings a survival claim and wrongful death claim as personal representative of the estate of Madison May Mogan. Jeffrey Kernodle is a citizen of the state of Arizona and is the surviving father of Xana Kernodle. Jeffrey Kernodle brings a survival claim and wrongful death claim as personal representative of the estate of Xana Alexia Kernodle. Stacy Chapin is a citizen of the state of Washington and the resident of Skagit County and is the surviving mother of Ethan Chapin. Stacy brings a survival claim and wrongful death claim as personal representative of the estate of Ethan J. Chapin. Okay. I need to go grab a drink real quick, guys, before I start finish the next read. Let's see. What are y'all doing in chat? What are y'all talking about? Some law? What are we doing? What are we talking about in chat with these about kids? What's going on? All right, I'm going to go get a drink real quick. I'll be right back. Let me do this. Let's see. Oh, I don't have a thing. All right, I'll be right back, guys. Okay. All right, let's see. What are y'all talking about? A law that y'all didn't care? Some kind of new law that's not good? Um, hmm. Well, maybe. I don't know. Change it. But whatever the conversation is, it's not about. Well, I'm trying to figure out what the conversation's about here. Okay. Sorry, guys. Schools are to blame. Internet, shitty parenting. Parent. What are y'all even talking about? How did we get on the subject? I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up because that's a whole different show. Anyway, y'all can still see the screen. All right, here we go. Number 31. WSU is a subdivision of the state of Washington and operates a public university with campuses across the state of Washington. All acts and omissions of defendant alleged in this complaint are alleged to have committed by agents and employees of defendant acting with the course and scope of their agency and or employment, including members of the WSU Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology, members of WSU Department, and the members of administration. Jurisdiction and venue. The court has original subject matter jurisdiction pursuant to the Constitution of Washington, or State of Washington. Venue is proper in Skagit County or Skagit County. The Chapins do live there. They've always lived there. The plaintiff, Stacy Chapin, resides there. Okay, venue is proper. Okay, we're going through the legal stuff there. WSU has sufficient context within the judicial district to subject it to personal jurisdiction of the court. All prerequisites to suit under the code there have been met. Well, somebody's friend's kids. Is that what you're meaning? Like, oh goodness. If people are voting for something they don't understand, I don't know what to tell them. You know what I mean? I'm kind of lost in the conversation, so don't take anything I say like, all right, because I'm trying to focus on this document and what they're saying about this dude right here. But I get it. Bad laws are bad laws. Nobody likes that. Like, push back. I say push back. They make something in your state, in your community you don't like. It's up to you to change it, right? Push back. Don't put up with it. Don't tolerate it. Don't take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. We said that back in the 80s and they didn't believe us, but those of us who were singing that song and headbanging in the 80s, we fucking meant it. Here we are today on the internet saying the F word. Okay, that's right, Pammy. You got to push back to make change, right? Otherwise, we're just the sheep. Is that what it's called? We're just roaming around like helpless little people. Okay, we'll do what you say. Nah, we're not about all that. All right. Factual allegations. Common to all accounts. Stalking is a serious and prevalent risk to college students. Stalking is a serious and prevalent threat facing college age young adults both on and off campus. I agree, stalking is serious. Real stalking, not that other version. Up to 40% of college students, particularly women, report being stalked since entering college. Um, okay, that y'all make new laws then. Y'all don't know whatever y'all mad whoever you're mad at, y'all do y'all. I don't That's cool. Y'all just don't say names and all that shit. I ain't going down. But I don't know what's going on there. If there's a bad, like I said, if it's a bad law, you got to change it, right? You have to make a new one. I get it. I'm in Florida. I know what pushback and change can do. I've seen it with my own eyes. That's why I say do it. Don't take it. Stalking is a serious and prevalent risk to college students. Okay, we were right here. Up to 40% of college students, particularly women, report being stalked once they enter college. The highest rates of stalking are experienced by students 18 to 24. Most stalkers are also students. Stalkers on campuses are most likely to be acquaintances of the victim, such as a classmate, friend, or someone else that they recognize. Those diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders are also more likely. I didn't mean to giggle because I'm that the fact that they put this in here because Ann Taylor said he has autism and here's traits of autism And they're like, well, here is also, is that really a trait? Those diagnosed with autism spectrum disorders are also more likely to engage in stalking behavior. Interesting. Are they aware that it's stalking behavior, though? That's what Anne would say. But they covered it. I'm assuming they got an expert to come talk about that in the future. In addition to being a crime, stalking is commonly a violation of university policies and a violation of the title or whatever that number is, I can't even think right now, of the Education Amendments of 1972. Oh, a university policy in violation of education amendments that they did back in 1972. Okay. You had a lot of people starting to go to college in the 70s. A big influx of women started going to college, right? Then it was all men for years. The men went to college, and those women in the 50s, and the women were the housewives and all of that. And in the 60s, it was much different, but it was a moving towards that in the 60s. A lot of the movements were happening. There was a lot of women. Bundy just had a field day with these college girls in the 70s because of that reason. All of a sudden, they had the opportunities they'd never had before, college or bust, and here they came. These fucking predators, man. Can't catch a break. It is critical for universities to promptly identify and appropriately respond to stalking behavior. As a violation, mandatory reports at universities are required to report any instances of stalking. Under Washington state law and Clercy Act, stalking is defined as engaging in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to fear for the person's safety. For their safety and the safety of others, or suffer substantial emotional distress. So, hey, Hawkeyes. Sorry, the cat distracted me for a second. Alrighty. Oh, let me make this thing catch up to where I'm at because it's throwing me way off. 1 second. Let me get this out. Oh, hang on. Oh, Lordy. Okay. Sorry. Had to catch up on something there, make sure everything's good. Mandatory reports at universities are required to report any of the substances. Okay, so that is under the definition of under Washington state law. Now remember, there's Idaho version of stalking, right? And under Idaho law, Koberger didn't meet the requirements to legally call him stalker. But under Washington law, it is defined as engaging in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause them to be reasonably fearful. Okay. A course of conduct is two or more acts. Common stalking behaviors include unwanted communications, showing up when not invited, following, surveilling, and threats. The most commonly identified stalking tactic is surveillance, which includes watching, following, monitoring, and gathering information about the victim. This can occur both in person and online. Yeah, I'd like Simi. I want to see the expert that's going to agree that that's an autistic trait to stalk somebody, right? What show me, just like I need Ann to show me her people, her experts to back up what she's trying to sell me. They got to do the same thing, because I was never happy with that label being slapped on him to start with. It was kind of like an insult to people who do have autism, right? It's like, get it right, people. Get your diagnoses right. Y'all been trying to diagnose this guy since 9 years old. Shit, there's your problem. 9 years old started, and you got that other dude, Reiner, over here, 14. His attorney just bailed because he wasn't going to get paid. The siblings are like, fuck no. He murdered my mama and my daddy. Jesus Christ, man. Take a break, dude. Send me this big fat bill. You crazy? That's my speculation. You had to give me that moment. A course of conduct is two or more acts. Common stalking behaviors include the unwanted communications, showing up when not invited, following, and surveilling. And then the most commonly identified tactic was their surveilling. Okay. In person and online. Tactics that include intimidation or menacing behavior. Oh, did I? Oh man, I think I skipped the whole page. Hold on a second. Oh wait, go down. Next one down. Down here. Tactics that include intimidation or menacing behavior are also common with stalking. Fear is a central element of stalking, and victims often might not report that they are being stalked, but rather report that the perpetrator will not leave them alone, or that he is acting creepy. Well, sorry, Rachel, I just said in Idaho, the person being stalked has to be aware of the behavior. Well, if you weren't aware of it, how would you know you were being stalked? Like, if you weren't aware of it, you wouldn't even know it to be aware. Maybe I'm confused. Fear is a central element of stalking, and victims often might not report it, but they're saying other words instead, like "leave me alone" and "creepy." Or stalkers commonly use coercive control tactics to exert power over their victims. Stalking is often associated with physical and sexual violence, and studies show that stalking increases the risk of homicide by threefold. They're just all out going with the stalking, right? When Idaho's like, legally, we still can't do that. Stalking is, but here we are in Washington, so it's different. Lauren, it's different state to state, baby girl. I tried to say that in the very beginning, but we had a bunch of people want to come out and tell us over and over a definition. It's like, fuck. That was such an easy find, the definition of stalking in that state. I did not need 100 damn videos to come out and tell me what it was and what it wasn't. Stalking is a known indicator of an urgent, volatile, and risky situation, because stalking involves a pattern of behavior that often includes multiple and varied tactics. It is critical that universities promptly coordinate their response so that the complaints about concerning behavior can properly and urgently be identified as stalking. Stalking behaviors often change and escalate over time, and it is therefore critical that universities document all stalking behavior, even if it appears minor. Recognizing the extreme danger that stalking can pose to students, many universities have processes designed to ensure a coordinated response for reports of stalking or sexual violence that involves campus, police, student affairs, and the title coordinators. WSU, in particular, has implemented policies and procedures designed to prohibit, prevent, and intervene in situations involving discriminatory, harassing, stalking, or predatory behavior. Pammy, by the way, it just dawned on me. I know you're in here, and I'm sure your daughter knows. You may already know. Bassett got rearrested. The other person of interest in Danielle Bell's case, just not even out of prison that long, got rearrested. I had posted about it on the community tab, and Bonnie has posted about it as well. So go check out her Facebook and see the deets. WSU, and I said that because Pammy's daughter also covers Danielle's case, so shout out. Doing the Lord's work. WSU has the ability to exercise sufficient control over its faculty, staff, and employees to manifest a duty to control their behavior. WSU policies and procedures to control, conduct, and prohibit discrimination, harassment, and stalking. Okay, so they're going to go into the description of that as discussed below. WSU recruited Koberger from the East Coast to WSU and hired him to be an employee. And the teacher from Pennsylvania, she recommended Koberger for the job, for the program, right? And she'd only done that with one other student in her career. And she did it because on paper, the guy was going to be brilliant, perfect fit. And he, yeah, got right in. But they didn't want him on the police force for some reason. Isn't that weird? You can come to school here and be a teacher assistant, but we're going to give the job you want to a girl. Mm. That's weird, Rachel, that no, look, this messed up, right? Like an 1800s law. I mean, how do you know you're being stalked if you're not aware you're being stalked, right? That makes no sense. I'm here to report that I'm feeling like I'm stalked. Did you see somebody? Yeah. Or I'm here to report I'm feeling stalked. Have you seen anybody? No. Well, then you're not being stalked. That's I'm confused. I gotta look up their law now. Like, what in the hell are y'all doing there? That's the strangest thing I ever heard. Well, maybe not. I've heard a lot. WSU has policies and procedures to control the conduct. Okay, so they recruited him and everything. WSU was obligated to control Koberger under the requirements of its employment agreement with him. WSU gave Koberger a written offer of employment to serve in the role of a teaching assistant, which offer Koberger signed an agreement. Under the requirements of the employee agreement, WSU was obligated to control Koberger. WSU policy provides that a teaching assistantship is an appointment in which the graduate student's primary duty is teaching or serving as a teaching assistant. Koberger's employment with WSU came with conditions and obligations. Under WSU policies, one condition of employment was that Koberger complete a sexual misconduct declaration prior to his hire. He had to declare whether he was the subject of any findings or investigations into sexual misconduct. A failure to provide complete and accurate information in the declaration can result in WSU withdrawing the offer of employment. Presumably, this misconduct declaration is intended to identify and prevent potential inappropriate interactions with undergraduate students that Koberger would be interacting with in his employment with the university. Did he list that high school incident? Was that considered sexual misconduct, or was that just a beef with the chick in the class? We thought it was more than just a beef. Anyway, WSU has a policy requiring pre-employment background checks. Had WSU performed a comprehensive pre employment background check on Koberger, it likely would have revealed significant red flags and the risk of Koberger in bringing him to Pullman, to the Pullman Moscow community. What in the world are you talking about now? Hold on one second, guys. Okay. Yes, Pammy, that's what we are hearing. That it wasn't long, he was out and he attacked someone, right? So that was automatic violation of his parole, and that's what they got him rearrested on. So he's in the county jail here. So, and that's good. It is better than nothing, Pammy, and it makes me feel better for Bonnie. Do you know what I mean? That he's behind bars. I love that. So we still need people to come and say what they know. Simi, we are actually talking about what you're reading this time. Now I was seeing this thing. It says drunk call a cab. Yeah, I don't even know what that. What we're like on a whole different subject. I'm like, oh my goodness, some heavy stuff going down in chat tonight. But all right, we're good. All right, yeah, Pammy. Let's hope, right? We'll get Bonnie back on soon and we'll see what we can. There's a big push locally, I've noticed, on a lot of cold cases. So I'm hoping we actually have a unit really looking, because they're the ones sharing these cases, right? The departments. And so I'm a little hopeful that we got some cold case units really working some shit. Let's hope so. I'm looking into it. Had the WSU performed a comprehensive pre employment background check on Koberger, it likely would have revealed significant red flags for bringing him to the community. WSU was obligated to control Koberger under the requirements of its graduate policies and procedures. WSU was further obligated to control Koberger under the requirements of its graduate school policies and procedural manuals. A teaching assistant and employee As a teaching assistant and employee at WSU, Koberger was required to abide by and meet the regulations and the policies set forth in the Graduate Policies Manual and Procedures Manual. And I guess they have a copy of it. Where's my screen acting a fool? There we go. Policies and procedural manuals. They got a copy of it. Okay. WSU policies required that Koberger be at work each normal workday, including periods at the university classes are not in session. WSU also states that a key contributor to WSU community, graduate assistants have a responsibility to maintain high standards and a professional ethical conduct. To that end, WSU policy requires that all graduate teaching assistants complete the Human Resource Services Discrimination, Sexual Harassment, and Sexual Misconduct Prevention training. Failure to timely complete this training can result in the loss of employment. WSU was obligated to control Koberger under the requirements of its Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology Graduate Handbook. And they go through the same thing there about their handbook guidelines. Similarly, the Department of Criminal Justice and Criminology, Koberger was required to comply with, and then they go through the highlights and the significance of that. It should be remembered that TA appointments qualify the student to be an employee at both the university and the state. Students are expected to uphold the standards of professional conduct that are implied by this status. In particular, students should be familiar with policies regarding inappropriate workplace conduct, amorous relationships, and respect for undergraduate students. Unsatisfactory performance of TA responsibilities could result in discontinuation of funding as determined by the chair in consultation with relevant faculty. Now, according to their own guidelines, he met the guidelines, right, to do something about. Wow. Hey, Jet, welcome in. Welcome in. CA Hawkeye, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what's I don't I'm just commenting here and there when I see a comment, but I don't know what y'all are talking about. I just know there's a couple of different topics it seems like being discussed, and I'm not sure what any of it's about at this point. So y'all carry on if that's what you're feeling. I, I have no dog in the hunt, right? So I don't know. I'm knee deep in this document. It's a long one. Um, Moreover, as a teaching assistant employed by WSU, the university had increased supervision oversight responsibilities with respect to Koberger's conduct. WSU policies state the department and programs working with teaching assistants should provide adequate supervision and training. WSU was obligated to control Koberger under its standards of conduct for students. WSU also obligated to control Koberger under its standards of conduct for the students. WSU policies state that the termination mid-semester can be recommended if a teaching assistant encounters performance difficulties, such as continual deficient performance or misconduct while performing the duties. So he was doing that, right? So misconduct while engaging in other educational activities, violation of the university's academic integrity policies, or the violation of the complaint. So he's got these complaints coming in against him. So he's there you go, you know. Hey Danny, welcome in. Oh, notifications not on or not working. I hate when that happens. Oh, I had a banner to throw up so people would know what I was doing. I'm so bad about forgetting to put it up. We are reading a document. Simi, especially when he studied those stuff. You talking about Koberger? Didn't the teachers pick up on things? If you're talking about him, yeah, they did. In this document, it even talks. They talked to some of the professors and such, and they was picking up what he was putting down. Apparently, they absolutely had a one said he was red flag. It's crazy. So let me turn this up. Oops, sorry. Okay. Well, let me get back at it. Let's see, where was I? Okay. So we are here. You go down. Ah, there it comes back to me. If a WSU graduate teaching assistant is suspended or expelled as a result of violation of the standards of conduct, their assistantship is terminated immediately. The standards of conduct set forth WSU's policies regarding certain conduct by students and employees, like teaching assistants. And I'm going to have to go back and find those documents released by WSU where they're talking about if you see this guy, if you see this suspect, and they didn't know who he, they claim they didn't know who he was at that point, But if you suspect you see the suspect, don't pull him over. Don't be communicating over the wires about it. Use the back door. Why? I was like, why go? Why? For y'all don't even know who the killer is at this point. You think you might see the suspect, but y'all are to ignore it and then let everybody know, but not through the normal police channels to do that. That's weird. And I didn't, like, was I the only person to pick up on that? Because I thought that was huge. And that was WSU. I'm sure they picked up on it. The standards of conduct set forth WSU's policies regarding certain conduct by students and employees like teaching assistants. WSU expects teaching assistants to comply with standards of conduct both on and off campus, and they are subject to the WSU disciplinary process if they violate the standards of conduct. WSU Center for Community Standards is charged with enforcing the standard of conduct. WSU representative previously testified in another lawsuit against WSU involving a student's death off campus, and there it is, that the Center for Community Standards can respond to reported violations that occur off campus if they create safety concerns or if they impact the reputation of the university negatively. And I'm going to say that's the lawsuit that was currently in action. That's my guess. My best educated guess on that one. Now you got two. Ouch, two. I don't think that one was resolved yet. Community standards can respond to reported violations that occur off campus and they create safety concerns or if they impact the reputation of the university negatively. In fact, most WSU Center for Communication Standards investigations concern behavior that occurs at private residence, off campus, or in close proximity to campus. Under his terms of enrollment at WSU, Koberger acknowledged the university's authority to take disciplinary action for conduct on or off university property that is detrimental to the university's mission. In fact, the stated purpose of WSU's disciplinary process and student or standards of conduct is to protect the welfare of the community. Similarly, the basic philosophy behind the WSU standards of conduct and disciplinary processes is to guide and correct behaviors, to protect the rights of all students, and to support a safe environment for students, the university, and the community at large. The WSU standards of conduct prohibit physical harm or threats of physical harm, harassment, stalking, among other behaviors. The WSU standards of conduct and Washington law define threat to include, and not limited to, statement of intentions. They go through the laws here. I'm not going to read all of them because it is a seriously long document. They're going to go through the definition of harassment here. To work, study, and participate in the regular life activities or to participate in the activities of the university. So as he's conducting his everyday normal life, he is to comply and be, not engaging in this nefarious behaviors. Happy you thought we were muted. I was muted. Uh-oh. Okay. The WSU standards of conduct, Washington state law, and federal law define stalking as engaging in a course of conduct directed at a specific person that would cause a reasonable person to fear for their safety, suffer substantial emotional distress. If they're still going through all the standards, right? Stalking, directly, indirectly, third parties, action, method, device, means, follows, monitors, observes, surveils, threatens communications. They're going through all that. Sanctions for the violations of the WSU standards of conduct can include temporary or permanent dismissal from the university, as well as trespass of domination that would restrict the offender from any or all university premises. This is page Executive Policy 15, they're going to cite that they were obligated to control. And this policy prohibits discrimination and harassment. So they're outlining all the things he was doing that y'all are outlined that he's not supposed to do. Pammy BK acknowledges it, huh? Acknowledge what, hun? Mm. This one talks about technically the technical violations and the general. It applies to students, faculty. Okay, so it covers Coburger. I'm not going to read all of those standards there. Okay, this is about Executive Policy 42. They were obligated to control under its executive policy. In the aftermath of the mass killings on both K 12 and college campuses, including those at Columbine High School in Colorado and Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, Virginia Tech, the United States Secret Service developed programs to detect and prevent incidents of mass violence involving principles of behavior, threat assessment, and threat assessment and management. These are proactive, evidence based processes to identify, assess, and manage individuals who may pose a risk of violence. Focusing on concerning behaviors and communications to prevent harm before it happens. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security, through its Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships, emphasizes threat assessment and management teams are effective, proactive, and protective measures that are designed to prevent, not predict, potential acts of targeted violence and terrorism. And they cite some websites here. Threat assessment teams, or TATs, are now commonplace at colleges and universities throughout the United States and have become a critical part of the standard of care. So they should have this assessment team, right, that would be able to red flag him more than the complaints were. I mean, come on. We need a whole ass team to figure it out. I think we have too many teams and committees. And then people argue and debate it for however long they choose to do so. And we have to wait. In addition to WSU's CCR office and disciplinary processes, WSU has a threat assessment team as set forth in their executive policy. Okay. And they show an example of that here. It identifies, assesses, and addresses threats to the university's communities. So more evidence that they should have been aware, right? Or been more proactive in dealing with the guy getting the complaints. So it goes into the threat assessment areas of focus include, but not limited to, behaviors that create reasonable fear or physical harm, intimidation, and all of that things. This one's going to refer to under WAVR 21, Threat Assessment Intervention Protocols, and is part of the TAT, and it claims to utilize tools and methods recognized in the field for threat assessment of individual cases and situations. So we got individual cases here they should have used this in. These tools assess psychological, behavioral, historical, and situational factors associated with organized violence. Now, you remember they had that one teacher's like, I'll work with predators, right? I study predators, or whatever her wording was. I am predators. She made an assessment. Where was the rest of the team? Where was the TAT people, right? Did it get to that level? Did they get to review and help them out with this possible person that needs this workplace assessment of violence risk? I don't know. It sounds like it probably should have been reviewed by them at least. These tools assess psychological, behavioral, historical, and situational factors. In particular, WSU's TAT utilizes a structured evidence based risk assessment tool called Workplace Assessment of Violence Risk. They were obligated to control him under the WAVR 21 Threat Assessment and Intervention Protocols. The WAVR 21 warns about the conflict avoidant manager who allows behavioral issues to fester, which is particularly prevalent in some institutions of higher learning. Why is it prevalent there? And that does not surprise me. And why does it not? It makes me feel icky because I've always known. Fuck. Warns about conflict avoidant manager who allows behavioral issues to fester, which is particularly prevalent in some institutions of higher learning. Why do you think that is, right? Why? Or they just don't like confrontation? I understand he planned it, and how would they know? They didn't know he was planning to do that, but they sure knew a lot about this guy before anybody else did. It's in the documents. They're literally, the families have filed a lawsuit together, and we're reading what's in the court document. It's literally 126 pages, and I'm on page 30. So I'm basing my opinions and my thoughts uh, out of what I've seen in previous documents that have already come out, what I've seen the police chief himself say in interviews, and what this court document tells me. As usual, I try to get my information straight out of the documents, right? But then I'm going to discuss my thoughts, theories, and opinions based on that document. But yeah, I get you. Not blaming them for the murders. But damn, they've come out pretty much and said, we knew he was a weirdo, but we were just hoping for the best. At least that's my opinion. Warns about the conflict avoidant manager. Okay, so why would they do that? Like, why would you turn your head and be like, well, they're smart. They're going to go places one day. WAVR 21 emphasizes that one precursor to violence is when the problematic individual has a distorted self perception of competence and achievement that differs in leadership from the. Okay, so they're going into detail as to why that would happen. Oh, the leadership's view of their performance leading to tension between the parties. This tension often includes issues with the individual's conduct and increasing disruptiveness. Now, remember, he had the issue with the professor at WSU, and that's literally based on what he himself has said, unless the man's lying. This tension is readily felt by, and I saw him on an interview say it. This tension is readily felt by involved supervisors who recognize the need to act but are concerned with the consequences, sensing the individual's volatility. He went to the bar and said, man, that guy at school. Mm. For instance, they may acknowledge the need to remove him from the program, but fear that he will resort to violence if they do. So did they think they were managing this guy by keeping him on? That'll keep him from acting out. I mean, keep an eye on him if we keep him close. We no. Managers or advisors feel intimidated by the angry defense individual and avoid interactions with him, which increases his sense of entitlement. I guess if you got somebody that intimidates you, but you can't just all out fire them because HR is going to be on your ass, you just got to put up with them. How many times in the workplace have we all had to put up with that one person that we couldn't, you know? Do you know what I'm saying? Hang on one second. Let me. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see now. So they went through that, and then it goes on. It gets worse as time goes on. WAVR 21 recommends that when removing such problematic individuals from a program, the organization should offer supportive services and careful messaging to reduce the risk of individual committing violence. Of course, you want to handle it properly, right? You don't want to cause no BS, especially if you got a hot one on your hands and you know it. Mishandling complaints about problematic individual can also contribute to them committing violence. Now, whatever, he was going to do it anyway. WAVR 21 warns that in a campus setting, problematic individuals are most likely to become violent in the days following a shameful or rejecting event, such as a reprimand, even though they may have fantasized about the mass killing. They just think about what they just, let me reread that because I know what they're implying right there. I know exactly what that means. It warns, hold on. It warns that in a campus setting, problematic individuals are most likely to become violent in the days following a shameful or rejecting event. Now, if you go back to the dates that he was supposed to have those meetings with WSU and when he left to go home, reprimands, even though they may have fantasized about killing for weeks or months. Because people are wondering what triggered him at that point. Why that date? Why that point in time? Why you get there in July? You're there. Why November 13th? Did something happen? Did what? That was right around the same time the shit was going down with WSU officials. Would that have triggered, like, I'll show you guys. I'm just going to go ahead with my what I've been considering, right? I don't know. Or did that even matter? Did it even play a part in it? Who knows? But they're talking about it right there. It also states it instructs that in what has become a see something, say something world, organizations fundamentally require or should require their members to report all direct and indirect threats observed by them. It emphasizes that there's a tendency in academia not fully vet faculty or graduate level applicants for conduct or criminal history, and that has contributed to dire consequences. Now, I mean, you can overcome your criminal history and maybe your conduct, depending on what it was, but it should matter to some extent if it, with your studies. I don't know. It's ugh. Yeah, they took too long, Rachel, right? They just took way too long. They were considering way too much. It says, well, they're calling it, well, if we fire him, we may have a lawsuit on our hands filed by Brian Koberger, right? Legally, could they have let him go and protect themselves against a lawsuit? They were probably having active meetings with the school's attorneys over that one. We need to get some email for you and see if it's in there. According to one risk factor for violence is an individual that has a strong desire for intimacy but is unable to obtain it because of his own deficiencies in being able to connect with others. Man, Steve Gonzalez is like loving this fucking document. WAVR 21 further warns that autism spectrum disorder is a risk factor for young perpetrators of mass murder due to their strong desire for but inability to establish intimate or social bonds. Whoa, 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 wait. That's in a document like that? The WAVR 21 further warns that autism spectrum disorder is a risk factor for young perpetrators of mass murder due to their. How many of our mass murderers have autism? Like, for real? Anybody know? Because I've never. considerate when that happens. It's not my first go to. Oh, I know it's mental health. So that's why. What the hell? So the campus document believes that since they Anne wants to say that's what he had. Okay, well, they're going to get you on that now. Wow. I just don't know if I like that. You don't have, man, profit over people. There's plenty of murderers who do not have the autism. Jesus. WAV. Did Dr. John write that section? WAVR21 warns that a specific indicator of a dangerous level of anger is when the individual engages in physical, threatening, or intimidating movement or gestures, such as standing too close to someone as glaring at them. They're pointing out all of his behaviors that were reported, right? Stalking or menacing behavior is a stronger indicator of future violence. The document also says it defines stalking or obsessional following as a pattern of unwanted pursuit and harassment of another threats and safety. Okay, all right. Stalking is commonly perpetrated by a student or a subject who is infatuated with someone who wants nothing to do with them or nothing to do with the perpetrator, and it is most likely commonly perpetrated by young males. So it's going through the history of what your offender might look like, a history of a criminal history, a criminal or a drug abuse history, and psychiatric issues. Well, if stealing his phone, sister's phone, heroin addiction, problem since 9 years old, and Anne had to go deep into the family history and hire a bunch of mental health experts. So, yeah, there you go. Stalkers also tend to be highly intelligent, contributing to their resourcefulness and manipulativeness to pursue their activities. According to the document, stalkers' motives generally stem from a need to control or instill fear in the victim as a means to overcome intolerable feelings of inadequacy, humiliation, increase the feelings of omnipotence, or to retaliate against a perceived injustice. Erotomania, a delusional belief that another person is infatuated with the perpetrator. That's when they believe that the person they're watching is infatuated with them. A delusional belief that another person is infatuated with the perpetrator, despite distinct objective evidence to the contrary. Oh, I know she loves me. I know she does. Oh, Lord, one of those. Yeah, there should never be more than one complaint, right, Simi? One was enough. Gee, two was a what do we have here? And three was like, oh, slam the door. Goodness gracious. I think the humidity dropped a little bit. My sinuses feel a little bit better right now. Okay. The risk that the stalker kills their victim is many times greater than the risk of an ordinary citizen being intentionally killed by another. WAVR21 warns that a thorough investigation and consistent management and follow through are essential for dealing with workplace and campus stalkers. Well, damn, yeah. Particularly ominous sign is when the problematic individual shows lack of consciousness. These individuals are conscious. These individuals are potentially dangerous and work in campus settings because they exercise no brakes on their behaviors. They often come to the attention of the threat management teams because of their aggressive and bullying. There is often a history of questionable conduct, inconclusive suspicion of wrongdoing, or blatant wrongdoing. Lord, they're out to prove they failed all the way around, right, with this one. critical predator for violence is when the predator engages in pre-attack planning and preparation, such as actively researching a potential target's routines and schedules. Now, he had to have been looking at the girls in King Road's house's schedule. If that was he chose that house, those individuals, or an individual for a reason. So you got to learn the routine, right? You're not just going to wake up that night, decide to go for your drive, and decide, you know what, let me just cruise through some neighborhoods, see what looks good, and take my chances. Willenta Road shows you a lot. Go look at that video that I put out. It's quite telling what all you could see from that back road in that Elantra. You could see the lights on, lights off. You could follow them home on, they would never even know it, honestly. Even on foot. You could park back there and walk and lurk in bushes like your friend's parents' house in Pennsylvania. Weird. A decline in the predator's academic duties may also. Now, we heard that he started coming to class looking a little disheveled, like he was always clean cut and put together, right? And then some of the students and coworkers were saying that he had a change almost, and he even seemed a little lighter. So you got disheveled and a lighter feel about him. So I don't know what to make of that, right? A decline in the predator's academic duties may also correlate with these pre-attack behaviors. Butterfly, it feels like it's been so much longer than 9 months. Doesn't it feel that way? Oh, good. Well, thank you for being here for 9 months. My OG, my big supporter. I appreciate you. You know I do. The perpetrator's comments may also indicate that he has been gaining information on a target's personal life habits, whereabouts, patterns of travel. How many times you wonder, did he sit at home and was able to watch that grub truck feed on Twitch? How regularly would Kaylee and Maddie show up there? Ava Woods, Rachel also coming in hot with the 9 months. Look at that. Thank you, ladies. That must have been when I could get members, right? Thank you. Oh God, I forgot what I was going to say now. Ava Wood. Oh shit! I just watched the interview and there was something in it I was going to tell you. About what she said. Now I got to think of it again. Hold on. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Semi Sharp, you're hearing that it was a party house. It was definitely a party house. We have proof. There are literal 2.5, 3 years ago, however long it's been, videos were released, 911 calls to the house, and they were the noise complaint calls. One's Kaylee. They're coming to the back door. It's daylight. She opens a slider. Hunter comes out with her. Noise complaint. They're in their party, and it is what it is. They're loud. Then there's one where Xana opens the door, and she's just Xana, right? Just all Xana. And she's like, I'm going to bed. I don't know what the hell's happening. I'm just trying to go to bed. You cops, that partying going on. There was another time the cops came to the door, and when the people opened the door, they couldn't find any of the owners. So the cops had to call Maddie on the phone and give Maddie another warning. So we've known 3 years it was a party house, right? The neighbors can vouch for it. It was a party house. So we always wondered, did he ever slip in there under the guise of a party goer? Would they recognize him? So far, interviews we've seen and heard, right? Nobody's recognized Brian Koberger. They were even asked, did you ever see him at the house, any of the parties? Nobody has said, we saw him at the party, right? Or I can recognize him. So we don't know if he ever got into the house. Maybe he got in there when nobody was home. Dylan spoke about a time they all left for coffee, And when they came back, the door was ajar and the washing machine was going, yet nobody had started the washer. So, and we know from other documents that Koberger broke into Jeremy's mom's house twice. She lived right next door. The second time he broke in to apologize for breaking in the first time. That's what she said anyway. I choose to believe Jeremy's mom. Or no, that yeah, Jeremy's mom. He's the one that his friend that overdosed. And then there's the other friend whose dad had the house in the woods, and he claimed Koberger was in the trees watching the place, broke in, stole his coins, but dropped Reese's Cups wrappers to the ground. Like, what? He likes Reese's Cups? Did that really happen? That's what they said. WAVR21 warns that an individual on a pathway to violence may show an unusual interest in notorious predators. Now, we all may have an unusual, what do they say, interest, an unusual interest in notorious predators. I know I do, but that don't make me one. WAVR21 instructs that after an individual is determined to present a risk of violence, a threat assessment team should determine what steps can be taken. So they're like, y'all overlooked the whole team, right? You didn't take it into account. Danny, welcome to lead investigator. Thank you for coming in and joining up, subbing up. I appreciate that. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming in and reading this document with me, or letting me read it with y'all. All right, so then I go into another description here. Wide range of interventions available. Did they choose the lesser? Plans for security, mental health related interventions, legal actions, interventions intended to diffuse and problem solve with the subject, and separation of the individual from organization. Generally recommended prevention measures include civil protective orders, voluntary or involuntary hospitalization and treatments, law enforcement interviews or confrontations, surveillance, arrest, and detention. Counseling conducted by skilled interveners intended to diffuse anger and humiliation and encourage rational problem solving. Jeez. I think our boy was past rational problem solving. Suspensions and leaves of absences, impulsion, and termination. Hold on, I gotta get my other chat screen caught up because it's like way behind, and I'm like, I don't even know. If I glance at that one by accident, I'm gonna see something that took place like an hour ago, and y'all are gonna be like, what in the world? So I'm trying to catch up. Let me get my screen. There we go. Okay, now I think now I'm in business. Now I'm caught up. All right. Oh, Danny, I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. I'd rather you take your time and get to, you know what I mean, get to know me and the community before you go that. So I can appreciate that, and I appreciate you for sticking around long enough to decide. Thank you for that. That means more to me than you just coming in, and you know what I mean. So I do appreciate that. Okay, so part of his employment as WSU teaching assistant, WSU also provided Koberger with housing in an apartment complex owned and operated by WSU. And yes, it was. Yikes. As an occupant of WSU owned housing, Koberger was required to sign and agree to the terms of a license called the Washington State University Family and Graduate Apartment Agreement. Oh goodness, he just signed an agreement like you should, right? And then I guess they attach a copy of the agreement there. Um, oh, Butterfly, thank you. Butterfly has gotten 5 memberships here for you guys. Thank you, thank you. Simi Sharp, welcome aboard, baby girl. Suzanne, sorry. Wendy, Tatiana, Carrie, y'all welcome in. Welcome in. All right. Thank you, Butterfly. I appreciate that. WSU was further obligated to control him under the terms of the Family and Graduate Apartment Agreement. One of the agreements of the apartment agreement was that while on the residential premises, Koberger had to abide by all local, state, and federal laws and WSU rules and regulations. One of the amenities that WSU provided to Koberger as a part of the apartment agreement was free internet access. I was wondering where they were going with okay, free internet access, both wired and wireless. Really? WSU provides internet access through a single network called WSU ResNet, which serves all WSU apartment complexes. Was he able to access those forensic data wiping tools owned by the department from the comfort of his little apartment? Because I've been super curious about that. Is that also something they didn't want known? That those tools may and may not have come from our department because they're not your standard wiping tools. They were really good, asked Heather Bernhardt. It took her a fucking minute. She was impressed. Wasn't a silly little app he downloaded to do the job. What are they implying? Okay. WSU provides internet access through a single network called WSU ResNet, which serves all of the WSU apartment complexes. And here's the agreement. He had to agree to abide by the network service agreement in order to access the WSU's ResNet internet network. WSU was further obligated to control Koberger under the terms of the agreement. WSU Nest Res provides users with access to all publicly available resources on the internet. In other words, WSU did not put any technical or physical restrictions on what a user could potentially access or do on the internet. There's a little more to it than that. A lot of places provide free internet and Wi-Fi. Is it their fault when you look up shit you shouldn't? Are you using it to access things you shouldn't? There's a difference between me looking something up and accessing something I shouldn't. Huh. WSU does not put any technical or physical restrictions on what a user could potentially access or do on the internet. WSU acknowledges that some of the information available may contain language or images about subjects intended for adult audiences. They acknowledge that some of the information available may contain language or images for adult audiences. Are the old chiefs back in business? Hold on. Information available over the internet may be illegal to transmit or possess. Examples of this include, but are not limited to, child pornography, export of software, illegal export of software, distribution of copyrighted material, distribution of chain pyramid schemes, phishing, sending of unsolicited bulk email, spam, and other fraudulent or questionable activity. What are they talking about? The apartment agreement states, I mean, I know what they're talking about, but what are they secretly talking about? What are they putting down here? Why is it so relevant? The apartment or agreement states that inappropriate use of computers on the WSU provided network can result in the loss of network privileges. So the browser history that Dateline got a hold of that's buried in those documents that the court ain't got around to unsealing yet, maybe one day, will show all that browser history. Did he accessed it with the free internet from the RestNet, along with some forensic data wiping tools? Speculation on my part. WSU requires that users comply with all applicable laws and the university policies when connected to the net. It would be a violation of the policy to do otherwise. Okay. Oh, to facilitate discrimination, sexual harassment, or stalking. And of course, if he's on their internet network and he's participating in those activities, then that's breaking the law, sir. That's against the policy. The apartment agreement also prohibited Koberger from possessing any weapons, including knives, in his apartment. Oh boy, how are they to know? How? But he had one though, didn't he? Damn, he had a big one. He brought it with him. But how are they to know? Weapons of any kind, including pistols, rifles, air guns, knives, having a blade longer than 4 inches, that are not for culinary purposes, or having a swing or switchblade. Now, say somebody's living there and the cops get called and they get into there and they find these things, you're going to jail, right? That's a violation. If they don't know, they don't know. But hey, he had it in there. Culinary purposes are having a swing or switchblade. Slingshots, crossbows, or martial art tools may not be stored or used in the apartments. WSU explicitly retained the right to have an agent of WSU enter Koberger's apartment at any reasonable hour for purpose of inspection, and WSU retained the right to enter the apartment without notice. Are they saying they should have went in there when they were getting the complaints? Without notice, without a search warrant, we can walk up in there. We own it. Would they have been able to search it or just look around, right? There's a difference. I don't know. Are the WSU cops allowed to search on suspicion you're a creepy person and we got complaints? I don't know. I don't know. Similarly, repeatedly disturbing other occupants or violating the WSU policies could result in termination. Now, if they're getting complaints, actively at the department at WSU on the guy, and then you got the girl living in the same apartment complex, well, I can't remember her name, the Asian girl, reporting the incident at her apartment, they're not putting two and two together. I don't even know if they are aware of it, right? But she's not saying that it was Brian Koberger. She's just reporting what happened. Somebody broke in, my cake was moved. Koberger comes over, installs cameras for her. Later, she feels like, well, was he watching me through the cameras? I'm interested to know, did he have an app on his phone? Did he delete it by then? By the time he got arrested, was his app gone? Did he wipe traces of that gone too? Like, what would have been an indicator for them to go into the apartment, right? If they could have put that together. A lot of places that will do inspections on your apartments or your rentals, but they normally let you know they're coming, right? For your routine inspections or whatever. But just to walk in based on, I don't know what the law standard is on that. It can be very different for housing like this, right? WSU employs and operates its own police force, which is intended to be critically important bulwark when it comes to protecting students and the community from sexual harassment, stalking, and dangerous predators. However, prior to Koberger being hired by WSU and arriving in Pullman, Moscow community, the WSU Police Department had a long, troubling, and sordid history of tolerating and, in fact, fostering inappropriate sexual behavior in its own ranks and discouraging complete and accurate reporting of occurrences in such conduct. When Koberger arrived in the community for the fall of 2022 semester, WSU was rolling from sexual misconduct allegations and a related investigation that resulted in the resignations of WSU Police Department senior leadership. And that is when the chief came on board that was there during the crime. The chief, what's his name, that came out and spoke afterwards about the Elantra, didn't matter. I can't even remember his name now. Chief, what's his name? WSU Police Department senior leadership. The scandal and investigation that consumed the WSU Police Department in the fall of 2022 was not the first such scandal. So they're embroiled in the scandal in the fall of 2022, right when college is about to start back. Koberger's arriving. The girls are all getting back into the swing of things. We're starting school. And they're preoccupied with some bullshit. In 2007, WSU's police chief Steve Hansen was demoted from his position after a WSU internal auditor's investigation concluded that Hansen had viewed emails containing inappropriate content on his university computer, forwarded those emails to WSU police, and invited other members of the department to view them. That's insane. Here's an article about it, about him stepping down from his position. In 2011, federal education officials fined WSU $82,500 over a separate campus safety incident that occurred in 2007 involving multiple essays. Ooh, not a good look, is it? Not a good history. Federal officials fined WSU over campus safety, and there's another article they have attached. Federal education officials completed an investigation of WSU's campus safety statistics and determined that WSU had not properly reported 2 essay assaults in violation of the Clersey Act. So they failed to properly report them. Federal law requires campus notifications of potential threats to students and employees. Federal officials charged WSU with failing to properly disclose forcible sex crime statistics and to properly classify offenses in its annual security report. We don't need no stains on the record, right? We need students to come. And we don't need parents to read that shit. The charges arose out of the incidents, 2 incidents in 2007. In one incident that occurred in August of 2007, WSU police labeled the offense as a domestic dispute, even though investigators found it included a rape perpetrated by the friend of the victim's husband. A domestic dispute, even though, what? Wow. WSU did not dispute the findings of the federal investigation. Wait. In the second incident in 2007, it was relabeled unfounded by WSU office or police records manager without authority to make such changes. Oh, hell no. Didn't have any authority to change a police record? WSU did not dispute the findings of the federal investigation. In early of August 2022, the police chief, assistant chief, and the captain of the department resigned from the positions to avoid investigation into yet another incident of serious sexual misconduct involving a WSU police officer. I have read about that. And this is an article from the Spokane Review. WSU police leaders retire early to avoid discipline. Like, all of them were allowed to just retire to get their money and go off into the sunset or to the prairie, whichever. What in the world? And what can criminals be like? I'm retiring, therefore you can't prosecute me, right? Excuse me, I'm resigning. Takes me right off the table. Jeez. How come they get to and we can't? That's weird. WSU initiated a disciplinary investigation into the WSU Police Department for failing to advise university leadership of a 2020 departmental investigation involving a WSU officer alleged to have engaged in sexual activities on campus while on duty. Oh boy. Joint disciplinary investigations were initiated by the officers of compliance of civil rights. Now, how old do y'all reckon these college police forces are? The deputies, the whatever they are, college cops. What age group do we suspect they are? Most of them. What age group are the college students? Got a bunch of fraternization happening here. Y'all stay in your lanes. You're our future. Stay in your damn lanes and act right. Lord. Joint disciplinary investigations were initiated by the Office of Compliance and Civil Rights and the Human Resources Department. Okay. The investigation revealed that in December of 2020, a WSU police officer notified WSU department command staff that they learned of a possible non consensual sexual activity between another officer and a victim. Now, that's non consensual. That ain't like, that's non consensual. Whoa, that's different. The allegations of improper sexual activities included that the officer had sex with the victim in the presidential suite at the Martin Stadium and at the WSU Observatory while he was on duty. Goodness gracious. The offending officer told departmental staff that he was willing to identify the name of the woman involved, but the WSU Police Department investigators said that was not necessary and then misleadingly wrote in their internal report that they could not substantiate the allegations without talking to the victim, whose identity they did not have. What kind of bullshit is that? The offending officer told the department staff that he was willing to identify the name of the woman. So, did he tell somebody what he had done? They reported it and they didn't know who the woman was because he's willing to identify her. So, as if they didn't know who she was. So, she didn't make the complaint. But WSU Police Department investigators said that was not necessary, and then misleadingly wrote in their internal report that they could not substantiate the allegations without talking to the victim, whose identity they did not have. So somebody reported what this cop told them. Hmm. Despite being advised of these incidents, the WSU police command staff failed to advise the CCR as required by WSU policies. Does that what that sounds like to y'all? Huh. Yes, Simi, they're gonna get a big old bite in the butt. I think they just did when they got this document right. Just are like, oh goodness. They knew it was coming. Instead, the WSU Police Department attempted to keep the incidents internal and claimed to ultimately be able to locate any witness willing to file a complaint. Takes me back to, if you see this suspect, don't do anything. Like, why? Because y'all knew or you suspected. I think they suspected. Despite that, the WSU Police Department offender did face internal disciplinary action for misconduct while on duty. And if they suspected, why not go tell Moscow? It's just, shh, don't tell nobody. Maybe they won't figure it out over there. Y'all know how they are. Damn. He said we offered to give them help, and they're like, nah, we're good, chief. We'll let you know if we need you. Holler back. March 2022. Oh, back when he ordered the K-bar. In March of 2022, WSU administrators learned about the 2020 incident and the WSU Police Department's investigation that was previously unreported to the administration. Koberger's like, hold my beer. Y'all think that was bad? Ha ha ha. Investigations were then initiated by WSU, CCR, and HRS, and the WSU Police Department command staff were advised that disciplinary proceedings had been initiated against them based on the investigation's findings that they exhibited gross misconduct, incompetence, and neglect of duty in their response to claims of sexual misconduct involving the WSU officer. Whoa. All of the WSU Police Department command staff then announced their resignations and retirement before the disciplinary process concluded. Well, they should still be able to enforce some disciplinary, even if they step down from their official roles. That should not even be allowed. That's ridiculous. That's like saying I retire as a criminal. You should have got me when I was still on active duty. I'm retired now. Leave me alone. Retired 2 hours ago. In response to the resignations, WSU President Kirk Schultz stated, "These are positions of great public trust, and WSU will not tolerate this kind of behavior nor the negligence of departmental command staff." Well, that didn't age well, did it? Damn. WSU then hired the retired chief of police of the city of Pullman's police department to serve as the interim chief. That's his name. That's what he was. He was the Pullman police chief, and he had retired. And then they got him to come over and be the WSU chief. The offending WSU officer, however, did not resign, and WSU continued to conduct a formal investigation. WSU CCR then proceeded to spend months during the 2022 fall semester investigating the allegations of serious misconduct of its officer. Months during 2022, during the fall semester, the same time Koberger was running amok. The offending WSU officer admitted to having sex while on duty. The WSU investigation found that the offending officer engaged in predatory grooming behavior while in a supervisory role at the university, made sexually explicit comments to coworkers, subjected coworkers to non-consensual physical contact, and engaged in sexual activities while on duty. So he was also running around making women feel uncomfortable and making jokes and doing all the things inappropriately, making us go, ew, creepy guy, person. So they're like, just, it's good old boy shit, leave it alone. Locker room banter, girl, you get it, right? WSU records also reveal that WSU police had a history of sexual misconduct while on duty, directed toward fellow employees, including student interns. The offending officer, WSU officer, had a reputation of engaging in sexual activities around the Pullman campus, including the presidential suite. How many girls did they talk to that actually engaged in something with this cop? Hey, Forrest, good to see you. Everything good? Figured you were busy. Yeah. Oh, I thought I told you guys earlier, Forrest. Sorry. I didn't realize until hours ago, but I thought I gave y'all a heads up this time. I'm trying to get better. Welcome in. We are reading the document from the lawsuit filed by the victims of Idaho 4 families against WSU. And it's been a long document. Probably gonna take a break from it and come back with the rest in the morning. Maybe. Well, depends. I'm not doing anything. But it's getting late, and I've been reading for a while. Fellow WSU police officers told investigators they had concerns about the offending officer making comments about student interns, such as, "Can you have them do that? A calisthenics movement again." Oh, can you have, like, he's trying to get them to do a move like a like a jumping jacks. Do that again. And got any hot interns this year? That's the kind of comments he was making about student interns. The offending WSU officer also sent inappropriate pictures to a former employee and used a ringtone on his cell phone associated with a pornography website. What? He's got that 70s porn music as his ringtone. Oh, God. I did put it in there, butterfly. Yeah, because this could even because I knew if you guys were busy, I understand. I have a hard time scheduling. I have good intentions, but I don't like the clocks and the calendars. Y'all know that. I try to go when I feel it, I go. The offending WSU officer also groped a newly hired female employee of the WSU Police Department who complained to a fellow officer. Despite reporting that incident, it was not documented by WSU or disclosed. Wow. I guess they got her statement as well, and then they can't find that it was ever documented either. What is wrong with them? WSU police sergeant accused of sexual misconduct, and that is an article, and it's talking about Washington State University. Now, ultimately, the investigation determined that the police department command forced an environment, uh, fostered an environment that discouraged reporting of sexual misconduct. These serious allegations, these serious misconduct allegations, and the ensuing months long investigation and findings regarding the WSU department during the fall semester substantially preoccupied WSU administrators and, in particular, the WSU CCR. Damn, it did, didn't it? As discussed in detail below, around the same time period, WSU's CCR office had received numerous formal complaints about Koberger's discriminatory, harassing, and stalking predatory behavior, but had not acted on those complaints or even met with or spoken to Koberger about them. Well. WSU brings Koberger to the Pullman, Moscow community and quickly learns of his threatening, stalking, and predatory behavior. Oh boy, we're about to get into some Koberger history. Y'all still with me? Y'all can come back on the replay crew if y'all get tired and fall asleep. Mods, if y'all got a bail if it gets late, I totally do get it. I don't know how much longer I will be at this, but it's hard to get info on this dude. Like, anything that we don't have. I doubt there's much here that we don't have. Okay. So how about when he was born? Born in 94, Koberger grew up in rural eastern Pennsylvania. In high school, Koberger was overweight, bullied, and he had difficulty developing relationships with female students. It was later reported that Koberger has autism spectrum disorder, as reported by his attorney. I just put that in there. Later in school, Koberger lost significant weight and became more aggressive with classmates. Over a number of years, before he came to the Pullman, Moscow community, Koberger made numerous public posts on an online forum called the Visual Snow or Static Forum. People with visual snow report seeing small moving dots across their field of vision. Koberger posted about his crazy thoughts, depersonalization, inability to feel emotion, that he was a blank soul, and his despair. And everybody tried to tell us those were all fake. We're like, no, they're not. Read them. It's really XR. It's his account. It's still there. Koberger posted online that As I hug my family, I look into their faces, I see nothing. It is like I'm looking into a video game, but less. Now, I reviewed somebody the other day reviewing the article done with Koberger's sister. They're pointing out, the family, how this is hard on families. Every little part of it was addressed. Stop and we'll have some commentary. They're totally down with her doing, coming forward and speaking so kindly about Koberger. But the part where it got to where the sister talks about the fight in the kitchen where she tried to force him out the door and he you know, takes her by the hands and de-escalates the situation, that part was never even commented on. It was just whipped right over to the next segment. And I thought, oh wait, where's the commentary on that part? Wait. Anyway, this cut is worth commentary. As I hug my family, I look into their faces and I see nothing. It is like I'm looking at a video game, but less. Do you reckon he ever got better over that and got some feeling about mother, at least? Koberger wrote that he could do whatever I want with little remorse. And I think the first post, when he first started posting, I think he was like 14, right? And he does, it's all this is in the damn, what is it? The Tappa Talk post, and there's the Reddit post as well, but a lot of this came from the Tappa Talk. Koberger also wrote about an array of mental health challenges that he faced, including anxiety, depression, depersonalization, lack of emotion, and his constant thought of unaliving self harm. If I say that word, YouTube will freaking have a meltdown. Koberger also developed a heroin addiction while in high school that he funded in part by theft. Koberger attended a law enforcement vocational program in high school but was kicked out of the program his junior year due to a series of complaints from female classmates. According to the administration of the program, to be removed from a program, the conduct he has to be pretty severe. Koberger was then transferred to an HVAC vocational program because it did not have any female participants. Koberger did not attend the vocational program his senior year and finished his high school degree online, graduating from Pleasant Valley High School in 2013. In 2014, Koberger was arrested in Pennsylvania for theft. That would be sister's phone. Koberger went on to attend DeSales University in Pennsylvania, seeking a graduate degree in criminology. At DeSales, Koberger demonstrated a particular fascination with serial killers. Also, while at DeSales, Koberger reportedly made multiple women uncomfortable. Most of the people who have spoke out about him really didn't. It was some guys. I think there was like one, maybe two women that I saw. The other one were guys, and they were just like, yeah, he was smart. Wasn't really anything too off-putting. You know what I mean? Like not crazy. Um, so made multiple women uncomfortable at DeSales. Employees at local businesses in Koberger's community were so concerned about his behavior that they took extraordinary measures. These are the girls at the coffee shop, I think. For example, female staff at a local brewery, the brewery, complained about Koberger's behavior and even made a note in their electronic ID system that would warn staff about his conduct when his ID was scanned. Wow. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. Was it really like, did they really have, can they prove that? Look at our system. We were really doing this, right? Holy moly. That's a pattern of behavior. Okay. The female staff noted that Koberger would make creepy comments and ask probing questions like where they lived and would get upset if they did not answer. Don't ask me where I live. You may not like the answer you're about to get, stranger. After obtaining his master's degree from DeSales, Koberger applied to the PhD program at WSU. Koberger was selected for the criminal justice program by the WSU panel. WSU also hired Koberger to be a teaching assistant. As part of this employment, WSU provided him with reduced free tuition by giving him a non residential tuition waiver, an on campus office, on campus housing, health insurance benefits, and paid him a biweekly salary. Now, we saw in the documents that were released in the MPD's website, or was it, yeah, it was there or the state police, I can't remember which one it was, where he had received medication and it came through the WSU medical stuff, right? We don't, yeah, it's all there. As a result of WSU accepting and hiring Koberger, he moved from Pennsylvania to Pullman, Washington in July of 2022. In fact, the terms of WSU's agreements with Koberger required that he live in Washington in order to receive the benefits the WSU was offering. Koberger would later tell law enforcement that he did not know much about Washington or Idaho, and that prior to moving to Washington, he had not left the tri state area much in the Atlantic Northeast. In fact, before WSU hired Koberger, he had never been to the Pacific Northwest. On July 9th, 2022, shortly after arriving at WSU, Koberger attended a pool party in nearby Moscow, Idaho. Oh, the famous pool party. Moscow, Idaho is the home of the University of Idaho and is less than 10 miles from the WSU campus. These two universities are the primary employers in both of their respective counties. And there's a little map. Highway 270, the Pullman-Moscow Highway, runs between the two. As neighboring small college towns, there is expected and considerable interaction between the students enrolled at WSU and the students at the University of Idaho. As evidence of that well-recognized fact, the probable cause affidavit that ultimately was used to obtain an arrest warrant for Koberger, signed under penalty of perjury by Corporal Brett Payne of the Moscow, Idaho Police Department, states both Pullman and Moscow are small college towns, and people commonly travel back and forth between them. Yes, it does state that. And for over 50 years, WSU and the University of Idaho have cooperated on sharing academic resources and have enriched educational opportunities. WSU, it makes you wonder why did he choose victims from University of Idaho versus a victim from WSU? Was it because he was at WSU, or was it because that just happened to be the victim in the choice, right? You know what I'm saying? That, I don't know. What did we cover? Sorry, I didn't have it been looking at chat for a minute. What was in the last few days? What did she ask? It's an article, Simi, New York Times, I think it was. I still have it linked. I'll have to grab it, but I went over it on my live. I read the article. So it wasn't like a sit down interview she did with anybody. She just did that one print article. And we went over it and read it here. And I'm sure other people have done the same thing by now. I believe it was New York Times. I'd have to look again. WSU and the University of Idaho allow students at each school to take courses at the other school. I was wondering about that. WSU and the University of Idaho have cooperative programs and cross-listed courses. The presidents and provosts at University of Idaho and WSU stated that for years, the University of Idaho and Washington State universities have been offering courses together to allow a varied of robust educational experiences for our students. In fact, WSU Criminal Justice and Criminology Department regularly interacts with professors and students enrolled at University of Idaho. WSU Criminal Justice and Criminology program advertises on its main website its relationship with U of I. Oh, they got They got the proof right there. The WSU Criminal Justice and Criminology program also offers a study program to the University of Idaho students that it also promotes on its website. Study abroad. Moscow, Idaho, Pullman, Washington are often referred to together as the Pullman, Moscow, or Moscow Pullman area. The United States Census Bureau's combined statistics, okay, they're going to go through all that, talk about how intertwined they are, right? The regional airport serving the cities is Pullman Moscow Regional Airport. They're going all in on the Pullman Moscow community, right? Like all in. The Pullman Police Department and the Moscow Police Department have formal mutual aid agreements and routinely cooperate on law enforcement matters. Exactly, except for this one. And emergency dispatch services. Whoa. Sorry. I don't even know how far I accidentally skipped right here. The regional airport serving the cities. Okay. There is also cooperation in the Pullman Moscow region on the issue of public safety. The Pullman Police Department and the Moscow Police Department have formal mutual aid agreements and routinely cooperate on law enforcement matters and emergency dispatch services. The city of Moscow contracts with Whitcomb in Pullman for all of its dispatching and emergency 911 calls. Well, that was a big deal in the beginning of this case. Why did the 911 call come out of Pullman? Well, because Whitcomb's in Pullman. Whitcomb is an agency that consists of the county of Whitman, city of Pullman, WSU. According to the Moscow Police Department, the partnership with Whitcomb has provided the community of Moscow and the University of Idaho with advanced support in many technical fields. Only 8 miles between the two schools, Rach, because I've always heard it's like 10 miles between the two communities, right? But Rachel's in the area, guys. So I'm taking my girl's word for it. She's my go-to of all things that area. I confirmed through her. So she's telling us there's like 8 miles between the two campuses. Wow. It's not even far. That's not far, right? It's just down the damn highway. I hear there's a video out there now from Floyd's Cannabis Shop. I haven't seen it yet, and I want to see it because allegedly we've known about this for forever. That's one of the first cameras that we became aware of because of Ann Taylor, where this white sedan was allegedly seen. She said it wasn't him, but I think it's going to be too far away to actually get a good look. But I really want to see it because I've been Floyd's Cannabis. I kind of want to go to Floyd's Cannabis just for the. Hey Rachel, if I come see you, we're going to go there. Then we'll go down and have some brisket at Butterfly's place. We'll get the goods and then we'll go to Butterflies. We'll go to the Floyd's Cannabis first. He's probably got some good gummies. The July 2022 pool party attended by Koberger was located near the University of Idaho campus at an off-campus apartment complex called the Grove. And that's at Moscow, or Grove at Moscow. Now, we've known about that pool party for forever. Dad said to the friend, his dad got there to help him move in. Dad meets a guy in the parking lot. Hey, this is my son, Brian. He's just new here. He's shy. Can you be his friend? Guy's like, yeah, you can come to this pool party. Brian's like, well, I need to get some shorts first to swim in. Guy's like, cool. And this is the pool party. The Grove apartment complex is a mere 1 mile distance from the home of the 4 students that would later be murdered by Koberger. It's always been speculation was one of the girls at that pool party, especially Xana. Koberger had been invited to the Moscow, Idaho. Now, we do know there was some girls there who spoke about their encounter with Koberger at the pool party. Koberger had been invited to the Moscow, Idaho pool party by another WSU student, and many of the people attending the party were graduate students. Oh, didn't she speak on one of the specials? Was it the Amazon or the Dateline? I can't recall the girl at the party. like had to tell her husband he was being the weirdo at the party. Koberger made multiple females uncomfortable at the pool party in Moscow, Idaho. When Koberger arrived at the party, he approached a female student from the University of Idaho that was in the property's office and asked how to get to the pool. She was wearing a sundress with a swimsuit underneath. She reported that Koberger was blankly staring at her body and acted weird. She when she later went to the pool, Koberger made very direct eye contact with her and then made a beeline towards her. She was uncomfortable and weirded out by Koberger's behavior and his staring. The interaction was concerning enough to another attendee that another attendee intervened and interrupted Koberger. And they're like, "Man, chill, chill out." Oh, my thing here. Another female, here she is. Another female attendee told Koberger that she was married in an attempt to end the conversation, but Koberger persisted in engaging with her. A male attendee finally had to physically intervene, and Koberger continued to be fixated on the girls. She said she was married. Okay. Here's some guys who are like, leave the girls alone. Another female attendee also reported that Koberger behaved oddly at the pool party. Now, we also heard, though, that he got two numbers at this party, at least one, from the girl with the pink hair. Was it the pink hair? Another female attendee also reported that Koberger behaved oddly at the pool party and gave an off vibe that caused her to keep her eye on him. On August 17th of 2022, the WSU graduate program hosted a meet and greet event on the campus. Koberger attended, and fellow graduate students noted that they did not like their interactions with him. At the graduate school orientation in August of 2022, a WSU graduate student instantly had a feeling about Koberger. Now, I don't know how much feelings are going to play in the court, but they're showing this pattern of behavior, right? Right, Butterfly, the birthing hips girl was the Tinder date. The girl he met on the Tinder date, and he told her she had the good birthing hips, and she pretended to be sick to get him to leave her apartment. Yeah. At the graduate school orientation, a fellow WSU graduate student instantly had the bad feeling. Okay. A fellow WSU graduate teaching assistant quickly identified Koberger as a threat. Pretty early on, I started leaving my office door open when he was in the office or in his office, especially if there was ever a student in there, because I just wanted to make sure that nothing was inappropriate. Like I felt way early on that this guy was going to do something inappropriate with a student. The teaching assistant indicated she pegged Koberger as a stalker or sexual assaulter type. So you not only got the professor thinking it, you got the fellow student TA is also thinking it. But the board who wants to help y'all decide what you got there is a little preoccupied with another lawsuit. I ain't even talked to Koberger yet. We got our plate full with this over. Whoa, they wish now they had talked to the guy, at least. Most, if not all, of Koberger's fellow graduate students were also teaching assistants or research assistants employed by WSU, and as such were mandatory reporters of any instances of sexual discrimination, sexual harassment, and stalking under WSU policies. Some instances of Koberger's discriminatory, harassing, and stalking behavior were reported to WSU administrators, but many instances were unreported in violation of WSU policies. Koberger's supervising instructor at WSU was aware early on that female graduate students did not like Koberger because he was so off-putting, and that several female graduates were very uncomfortable because of interactions with Koberger. Koberger was known by the WSU professors and fellow students to have a particular interest in studying sexually motivated burglars and to be obsessed with serial killers. Now we've moved into obsessed. One fellow WSU graduate student reported that based on how Koberger talks to and treats women, people in the WSU criminal justice program thought he was a possible future R. Like I've said enough, I've said so many words, I'm probably already flagged by the YouTubes, but I am pushing it and I know it. Okay. So are they reporting their, I mean, your criminal justice students, when they're making these 13 separate reports, are they expressing their concern, their thoughts here like they are in these reports? And who's reviewing them and going, well, you're still learning. You probably got it wrong. But then was it the professor who also feels the same way and they're still like, something's amiss? During the second or third week of this semester, a female WSU graduate student hosted the whole graduate cohort at her apartment to watch a ball game. Koberger attended the event. Afterward, Koberger began telling others about prescriptions that she took, leading the graduate student to suspect that he had looked through her medicine cabinet while attending the event at her apartment. Oh, we read about that in one of the documents. So he goes to the bathroom and just decides to go in through her medicine cabinet, right, and see her prescriptions. And then he goes and tells other people about what she takes. How would you know? Unless you went through her shit, right? Oh, sorry, I was looking at the comments trying to catch up. Yeah, Simi, are you talking about the Delphi case, Richard Allen? Oh, Simi, there's a lot to unpack with that. I'm actually trying to put together another show where there's some stuff to go over. I want to go over because that's an appeal, right? There's an appeal been filed in the case, um, and we did go over a lot. Andy and I went over. Well, we haven't really dove into a lot of it. We went over some other stuff, so I'm going to be putting together some more, and I've got some people I want to come up and help help us with it because there's a lot. But yeah. Yeah, a lot of questions in the Delphi case. Too many. Too many legitimate questions, not fake ones, right? All based in court documents. And the and I do have the appeals document too that has been filed. And we read it here, so I do have that show. Female graduate students who would complain that Koberger made them uncomfortable, feel unsafe, and that he was creepy, and would try to distance themselves from him, including physically spacing out from Koberger in classrooms. There were numerous instances where Koberger would stare at students weirdly during class, making students uncomfortable. Now, my little niece, from the time she could learn to talk, you didn't stare at her. We knew after church on Sunday when we went to eat, God, I hope nobody in the restaurant stares at her because they're going to get told, stop staring at me. That was just her on the spectrum. She couldn't help it. We knew it, didn't bother us a bit. Just don't stare at her, right? You can't stare at that one. We know this already. You about to find out. It was comical for that little kid to do that. It's like sometimes she embarrassed. It's like, girl, you ain't got to be so hateful about it. Just say stop staring politely. We had to teach her to be polite about it. All right, Simi, you know what? I guess if you have a lot of company over, if you're prone to throw like parties, like back in the day, right before pre-children, I thought about stuff like that because I got a mind like that. I didn't need nobody walking into my bathroom during some sort of party, rummaging through my private shit. Guess who's not about to keep that in there? Because I probably watched a criminal show that said probably don't do that, right? Yeah, I was never one to keep my prescriptions in the medicine cabinet because I didn't want people to come in my bathroom and look. It's like none of your fucking business. Shut that. What are you doing? Yes, Grit was True Grit. You need to email me. I need to check, see if you have saltysleuth@gmail.com so I have a way to link up with you. I'd love to get you on for the show. It's been a minute since I've been able to talk to you anyway. Would love, love, love it. Yes, Andy, all and we are Andy and I have already talked about, coming, and also there's another person I've spoke with on X who had a really great idea. There's a particular document or particular testimony they would like to deep dive, so we are I'm getting that in the works too. So we do got some Delphi stuff coming up. Yeah, thank you, Grit. Saltysleuth at gmail.com. Do so, girl, as I really want to link up with you so we can get it going. If you don't mind, if you're down for it. No pressure. Okay. Um, There were numerous instances where Koberger would stare at students weirdly during class, making students uncomfortable. Koberger's supervising instructor at WSU believed that Koberger did this in a way to display power or dominance. Now, there is that documented somewhere. A supervising instructor believed that Koberger did this in a way to display power or dominance. Instead of taking care of this guy, y'all are evaluating him, making an assessment. Uh, Koberger's supervising instructor also was aware of a complaint made by a senior student that Koberger stared at her a lot in class and it made her feel uncomfortable. Koberger would engage in similar inappropriate behavior with WSU instructors. The instructor under whom Koberger served as her undergraduate teaching assistant reported that she would regularly interact with him and that he was frequently in her office. The instructor stated that Koberger would stand behind her while she was working at her desk and stare over her shoulder at her. This instructor had another WSU professor escort her to the car at the end of a workday because Koberger's behavior was such a concern, and that was one of his instructors. Koberger's inappropriate behavior with his instructor also reported to other professors. So, goodness, he's just being reported all over the place, right? Like, what in the heck? Why are y'all dropping the ball so hard on this guy? There were also numerous instances where Koberger would block the door to trap female graduate students. You have to wonder, Bill Thompson, nothing to see here. Koberger would have just told us a whole bunch of lies. Nah, we're done. Was that to help protect all of the universities too? Wishing everybody just go away quietly, nothing to see here. We did good job. We got the guy. You wouldn't have got him if the FBI didn't come through the back door with some knowledge. Let's be honest. FBI came out during that press conference and kind of owned it for like 5 seconds, and then oh no, now we're gonna back off, back into the shadows. We put it out there. We're doing it. Y'all get used to it. We're sliding back into the shadows now. Bye. Y'all missed that? I didn't. They fucking acknowledged it. There were also numerous instances where he would block the door and trap female graduate students in their own campus student offices for long periods of time. In one instance, the professor heard a female graduate student say, "I really need to get out of here," and the professor intervened. Ah, sorry, I hit a button that I shouldn't have. Okay, got some all kind of crap my way. I was trying to do this. Um, So he's blocking doors and people can't get out. And others have to come in and intervene by going into the office to allow the female to leave. One female graduate reported Koberger would trap her in the office and that he would try to talk to her about Ted Bundy. Some graduate students would try to keep their on campus office closed, yet another would keep them open. We read that earlier. Koberger perceived the female classmates as dominant and sexist and was disrespectful to He was perceived by the female classmates as dominant and sexist and was disrespectful to the instructors, to the female instructors. Koberger's co-workers in WSU criminal justice program believed he was an incel or involuntary celibate and was sexually frustrated. Now, Jacob and whoever came out with that incel term very early on when they were, when it was announced he was arrested. Oh boy, people took that shit and just like we were so insulted by it. Like if you look at the actual meaning of it, it doesn't mean the creepy guy in the basement no one ever sees. That's a different kind of person. Involuntary celibate. If that wasn't Koberger, I don't know who was, because according to all these women, they weren't touching that shit with a 10-foot pole. Yeah, right. Grit, what caused the reaction to women? Because there's nothing, well, we don't know, right? Like, I'm thinking, like, when you think about some of the mom issues type things, this guy seemed to really love Mother. Him and Mother have a bond. So I don't know where the anger toward women, if it was developed over time because he was not looked at by women the way he wanted, you know what I mean? He had a hard time connecting with women, even getting a date. If a hatred developed toward a particular type, you know what I mean, and a look, how these who knows what provokes these killers. The other night when we were watching that BTK, and what he would talk about why he did what he did. That's the stuff I want to know. Why did you do what you did? People are like, well, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. Because maybe we can figure out what the hell's causing this. Maybe people in authority can really recognize the red flags and decide to do something about it. Do their job, right? Hell, what the hell y'all want us to listen to all your freaking expert shit if y'all can't even get rid of what you got right in your face, right? Crazy. And they call us the crazy people on the internet. Don't listen to the rumors on the internet, and damn sure don't listen to the intellectual shit neither. And then they cuss, so you can't listen to nothing they say. uh, oh, don't think I don't get it, but I don't give a damn. By September of 2022, Koberger had developed a reputation. By September, a reputation at WSU for being a dick. July, August, September, October, November. He also developed a reputation at WSU for being very homophobic. Really? I don't. Whatever. Why? Why are people like? What? What is it? Okay, I'd never really heard that before. That's why I'm like, really? Because I hadn't heard that before. Koberger would pick fights with other WSU classmates, and his arguments would leave the class upset. Damn, they were tolerating a lot out of this guy. It was Mother calling daily saying, y'all give him a break. He'll be okay. He'll calm down in a minute. Let him get it out of his system. Yes, BTK said he had good parents, Butterfly. He can't blame nobody but himself, can he? He's just like, man, I'm just deranged. I just wanted to do it. So I did it. And here's how I did it. Matter of factly. And his honesty is probably off-putting to a lot of people, but I kind of appreciate it. Because it's like, damn, if we think that these people aren't sitting out there right now cooking up the same shit, wow. Well, Koberger obviously was. He's like, man, that BTK guy, he's pretty fucking ruthless. That Rex Heuermann, oh my lord. Koberger tended to be aggressive when interacting with female colleagues and would be agitated, argumentative, and confrontational during class instruction, as well as out of the classroom, often prompting other classmates to intervene. Golly. Now, how many of these classmates and coworkers and professors, when all this happened and it was announced he was the one arrested, were they all calling each other up, going, "Oh my God, oh shit, we were right"? In one instance that occurred during the first few weeks of the semester, a confrontation with Koberger made a female student so upset that she fled the classroom in tears during the middle of a class, leaving her possessions behind. Professors in the WSU graduate program were aware of the incident at the time that it occurred. Well, I would hope so, because they should all be there witnessing it. Was it just the two of them alone? Is he telling her your paper sucked and she ran away crying? Or was it in the middle of class? It sounds like it was in the middle of class. It says right there, during the middle of class. So the professors should have been aware of what happened, even if they weren't in there when it happened. That's so good thing she wasn't my daughter. The student later filed a complaint against Koberger with the WSU CCR office. Well, they were a little preoccupied. The student filed this complaint with the goal of creating documentation of the incident should further issue arise with Koberger. Koberger was supposedly spoken to about his inappropriate behavior, but nothing further was done about the incident. His female classmates kept a board with a running tally of his behaviors in female instructor-led classes versus male instructor-led classes, as well as documenting his discriminatory comments and behaviors with colleagues. Oh, did they document all of that? And they have it, dates and times, and all the Idaho's like, there was nothing to see there. He was just a guy who one day flipped out. An instance of aggressively staring at students. Man, that was the Brian Talley. During one particular class, Koberger stared at a female student 9 times. She counted it and wrote it down, documented it. WSU professors were aware of this tally board concerning his behavior. Yeah, that was the Brian Talley. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, Butterfly, BTK didn't actually perform the act on his victims. He performed it on himself, but not his victims. Isn't that crazy? Everything else he would do, the bind, torture, kill. The torture thing is the worst, right? But he didn't assault them in that way, and that makes him a little different than most of the killers, right? Yeah, 9 times, Simi. They had a running tally board of all the Brian stuff. So she's got 9 times he stared at me today. In one incident, his student was graduate student were alone in a classroom, and Koberger physically blocked her from leaving the room. Oh, every time. In another incident, Koberger asked out a fellow WSU staff member who rejected his advance, and then he followed her outside to her car. That was WSU staff member told another female graduate student that Koberger had been stalking her. This resulted in another report being filed with the CCR office. Colleagues in the WSU criminal justice program also were aware that the undergraduate students were uncomfortable around Koberger. Koberger's office mate, a fellow WSU teaching assistant for the criminology program, was aware that Koberger attempted to use his authority as a TA to inappropriately act with female students. Interact with. A fellow teaching assistant was aware that he attempted to use his authority as TA to inappropriately interact. The office mate thought that Koberger wanted a girlfriend and would frequently talk about his desire for a girlfriend. A 19-year-old WSU sophomore first met Koberger when he came to her student office. Shortly after that, Koberger started coming to her office nearly every day to talk. Koberger's office was located in a different part of the building, and he did not have a particular reason to be in the area. He's just looking for victims everywhere. Mm-mm-mm. The sophomore would try to focus on her work, but Koberger would remain in her office, whether or not she interacted with him. She described her actions with Koberger as uncomfortable. And if I'm in my office and this dude just walks in and plops down and he's just like chilling, can I help you right now? I would probably make him so mad. On one occasion, the sophomore returned to her office to find Koberger inside. She told him that she was closing the office and he followed her outside. Koberger then asked if she wanted to get coffee, but the sophomore declined and stated that her girlfriend was coming to pick her up. The sophomore told her bosses at WSU about the incident. In response, they told her that she should not be alone with Koberger, um, and suggested that she have campus security escort her out. Her bosses at WSU told the sophomore that she was not the first to report such problems. Koberger continued to come to the sophomore's campus office when she was alone. On another occasion, Koberger stood directly behind the sophomore's chair as she was working. So this guy was just, that was some of these are the same reports from we read from earlier. But I think I'm going to stop. Let's see. This is page 68 because I'm going to come back in the morning. Let's see. The sophomore thought it was strange that Koberger seemed to know her schedule and would intentionally encounter her. In another incident, the sophomore saw Koberger walking outside as she was locking up her campus office. Koberger made eye contact with the sophomore through the window. What? In another incident, the sophomore saw Koberger walking outside as she was locking up her campus office. Okay. So she's looking out, I guess, and she sees him. Koberger made eye contact with the sophomore through the window, as if he was looking for her in anticipation, and then he entered the office building. In order to avoid contact with Koberger, the panicked sophomore fled into the bathroom to hide. She hid out of instinct due to how uncomfortable the contact with Koberger had become. Goodness, good night. Gee whiz. Yes, Forrest. This has been a long document. We're only on page 68, but man, they knew a lot, right? It is a lot. They absolutely knew what they were dealing with. And they were also preoccupied with a whole other lawsuit happening at the same exact time. uh, and a lot of misconduct happening. Out of concerns over Koberger, the sophomore's boss at WSU would occasionally take her home so that she would not have to walk by herself or take public transportation. The sophomore became concerned about how many precautions she needed to take because of Koberger's behavior. Man, oh man, guys. My cat just like meowed at me a little bit. She's like, I hear you. All right, guys, I'm going to stop at page 68. I'll pick back up on page 69, but I'm going to do it in the morning. If you can't make it back in the morning, please catch it on replay if you want to hear the rest of the document. I think I can post the link on the community tab. I always forget to do that when I tell you guys I'm going to post it to the community tab. One of you mods remind me later, hey, you didn't do that yet, and you said you would, because I always seem to forget. But this is a damn long document. You hope more join the lawsuit. They won't be joining this lawsuit. They can file their own lawsuits against the university. These individuals who were put at risk, I guess, they may be able to do it on their own. But as far as this particular one, it's just the families of the victims. So I think anybody else would have to, at this point, probably couldn't join this one because of the type of wrongful death type suit it's going to be. But they could probably file their own, right, in some way. I don't know. I know, Simi, you know what I thought of, right? Shorty, where's Miss Shorty? Yay, 69. I thought about the same thing. We on the girl, we vibing. I knew you would say, I knew somebody was going to get it, and I knew it would be you. We're going to start on page 69 in the morning. Koberger hasn't been sentenced yet. Yes, he has. Or yeah, he has. He had sentencing, and life in prison because the death penalty was off the table. Uh, Olivia Gonzalez, Kaylee's sister, delivered an epic victim impact statement. Boy, was it epic. We should probably watch it again for fun. Very impactful, I should say that. And mods, thank you for hanging in there with us so late. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging in with me late. Yeah, Koberger took a plea out of nowhere. We were geared up, getting ready to go to trial. I was over there on the X one day. Brian Enton posted it. Like the site, I happened to be on there when he posted it, and it said, "I'm hearing from sources Koberger's taking a plea." What? I immediately hit my friend Dolphin. I was like, "Look at this." She's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what?" And yeah, next thing we know, he took a plea deal, and he was sitting up in court with no drugs in his system, apparently. You know, like our boy Rick Allen over here. Well, he didn't even go to court and say, "I did it," did he? No. Anyway, but yes, he took the plea deal, and they've already sentenced him to life in Idaho State Pen. All right, guys. Yeah, Miss Shorty. Let's see if we can get her over here soon. Have a visit with us. Because she's in the future, though, so we got to set it up just right. I had her on a couple times. It was on Sundays, and we had to do the timing so it could accommodate. But I don't like to get her where she's got to get up, in the middle of the night to accommodate us. All right, let me take this down. We are going to be back at page 69 in the morning. All right, guys, thank you for hanging in. Yeah, he's been sentenced and everything, and he can't appeal under the condition. Well, technically, legally, he could, but he under his plea agreement, no, there's no grounds, right? And plenty of people are unpacking documents and still looking for stuff. So when they find it, I'll be down with it. But until then, he's the guy. All right, guys, thank y'all for coming in and doing this with me. And I cannot see what I'm doing here. I got to get all this set up so I can get us out of here the right way. All right, I'm not used to. There we go. All right, thank you again for coming in, everybody. And if you don't mind, please hit the like button on your way out. Help us get out into the algorithm for those who want to hear this and whatever. I appreciate y'all coming in, and I'll be back in the morning. Mods, I'll give y'all a nice little heads up in the morning before I go live. It won't be terribly early. All right, y'all have a good one. Buckle up. Stay safe on the YouTube streets. Y'all know the rules. All right, great, Jet. Thanks for coming in, everybody, and y'all have a great night. See you in the morning.
Thank you all for watching this here video. Please like and subscribe and follow. Much love from Little Yap.